Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us here at the Backlook Cinema Podcast, or as I sometimes call it, Backlook Cinema, the podcast. Who's right? You decide. This is where we take a look at the movies of yesteryears. My name is Zo, that's Z-O or Z-O if you're outside of the United States. And remember, I did say that I'm starting to get used to Z-O. I need to make something of it, if you will. This is our 62nd episode. Thank you for downloading or streaming. We really appreciate it. And the reason we started this show is to strengthen the bond between my son, Zach, and me, Zoe. We watched movies that I loved when I was growing up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I'm going to tell you what Zach thought about the classic movie that we just watched yesterday. Now, if you like this show, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, spotchaser.com, or your favorite podcast app. Finally, please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can find the details in the show note. Now, as promised last week, I have some very special guests. They are the hosts of the great Rotten Treasures podcast. And let me tell you, I had to practice that several times because it might come out as Rotten Tomatoes. In my head, it's Rotten Tomatoes, but the name of their podcast is Rotten Treasures, where they review series of movies. They're not just going to talk about Jurassic Park. They're going to talk about Jurassic Park 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going to go through all of the Rocky movies, all 16 of them. They're going to go through all 8 of the Rambo movies. They've got your back. They are Jim O'Donnell and Kai Bobbi from Rotten Treasures. Give it up. Let's give them a hand.
Yeah, woo!
Coming in
Yay! We're coming in hot.
5'3" 3/4, weighing 192 pounds.
6 foot. 170, I think.
So,
thank you, gentlemen, for joining.
So I have to break your heart right off the get-go. Ready for this? So
What's
you
that?
practiced so hard, and you did the number one thing that it's our fault for setting people up for this failure.
Yeah,
Jim, what is the name of our podcast?
It's Rotten Treasure. It's just one treasure, and you might have said treasures because I say it on the podcast all the time.
So like the first 10 episodes, you say, "Hey, we're Rotten Treasures."
I think it's just a more natural way to say it, and I don't know why we have corrected ourselves to Rotten Treasure, and we're correcting other people too. Like we should just be both.
I guess because
it.
I Googled it. There is a Rotten Treasures plural, and it's like a hand cream or something. I don't remember what it is. So I went singular.
Well, here's the thing. Nobody finds one treasure.
No.
Nobody. That's the deal. You don't go and find a treasure chest. I found a treasure. You usually what you want to find is treasures. You want to find a bunch of stuff. You want to be like Uncharted and find a case full of gold, a barrel full of gold, if you will. That's what you want. If you find just one treasure, then what are you really doing?
And we're finding all the treasures. You mentioned it in all 16 Rockies. We point out every single treasure in that. right. Oh my gosh.
So this is the Rotten Treasure podcast, and also I did not mention that either one or both of you are improv artists and comedians.
Both of us.
Yeah,
Jim.
both of you. All right.
Tell our love story. Yeah. Or we both?
We met through improv, sort of. I was in an improv class with Kai's roommate, who was inspired to do improv because Kai did improv 2 months earlier. And then we met and we were just like, we should be friends and we should be friends forever. And then 2 years later, we were like, we should do a podcast. And we could meet people. And then here we are.
So it was literally the first moment I said, Jim, we should be friends forever. He took 2 weeks to think about it because it was a big offer off the get-go.
That's a lie, but like it got it's like Hemingway says, like the truth, like fiction is more true than the truth kind of thing. Like that's basically what happened. It's a lie, but that's what happened.
Right.
I come in hot with feelings. I'm going to go start off the get-go. Zoe, I love you. Let's be best friends forever. Too soon?
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
And I'll let you know in 2 weeks.
So, and actually, when you said that I had made a mistake, I started to think, oh, well, I mispronounced somebody's name because but I got everything good on the names. All right.
Oh,
awesome.
yeah. Got that right.
I think that's better than messing up the name of the podcast. So are you, so obviously you're not both in the same improv group because you're two different parts of the country.
Mhm.
So are you currently in improv troops right now?
Yes. I'm in Daddy Issues in Philadelphia, which is a team that Kai and I started, but then Kai left to go to Minneapolis.
Failed. Yeah.
But I don't know, Kai, are you doing I know you have a group going, but I don't know if you've done anything with them yet.
We have a group that's like formulating probably out of the class that I'm currently taking out here at Huge Theater. Shout out to Jill Bernard. Your theater is amazing. But if I do end up being with this group, I'm going to have to contest the name Pringle Juice because they really seem excited about it.
No.
And I'm not going to, I will literally just say no on that alone, you know? Yeah. So we'll see.
I think I like Pringle juice.
No.
It's just that, you know, there's a Pringles chip, and you know, the Pringles company might have an issue with that. I mean, if you have like a logo for your troop, it could be just like a huge mustache, but not the same mustache as the Pringles chip. You have to change it up. But
we know an improv team who got a cease and desist for having the name of a credit card.
Yeah,
and I don't even feel comfortable saying it here because they got that cease and desist.
But I mean, like, go on the internet, you could probably discover what it is.
Right. Oh, there you go. That's sly. It's very sly of you. Anyways, so how long have you two been doing comedy?
I keep throwing it to you, Jim. Jim, how long have you been identifying as a comedian?
4 years in August. Yeah, because August 2018 is when I started, and then Kai did 2 months earlier.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So it's almost like you just started.
Yeah.
You're like babes in this game.
I mean, I started improvising off the get-go. I think Jim and I both described it. We have family that just does bits.
Right.
So I think, honestly, once I kind of worked my way into it, it was like, oh, just keep doing the thing I've been doing forever, except just better and like more structured.
Right.
Yeah.
So how are you able to do quarantine? I'm sorry, mouth problems. How are you able to do comedy in the past couple of years during the quarantine?
Short answer, you can't.
Yeah. I mean, we did it. We put content out into the world that is available, that I'm not going to tell you where to go because it's online improv and no one should have to watch online improv.
Right.
Yeah. Online is not really conducive to improv. It's not very, it's not the best because it gets rid of a lot of things. But that isn't to say that there wasn't good stuff out there for like sketch things and things like that. I don't know any because I didn't do sketch during that time.
Right.
Yeah.
We kind of started a podcast because we were frustrated with how online improv was. So that's how we survived.
Right.
And there are improvisers who made it work. Like we'll give another shout out to another podcast, Fair Deal, an improvised improvised mediation, I believe. But so people were like, let's just have fake fake disagreements being worked out, and we'll just have pull in two improvisers, tell them who they are, and let them have a fake argument for an hour on a podcast. And it is. So if you lean into it, there is a way to do improv comedy out here, both online and audibly, but damn, is it an extra challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you should say that. I posed this similar question to my previous guest, Jonesy, and he's a stand-up comedian. And also, like, he tried to do a couple of shows online and they just didn't work. And I commented that, because from what I understand of the craft of stand-up comedy specifically, you kind of need the audience in order for the comedy to work. If you don't have that back and forth with the audience, like the audience would tell you when jokes are funny and when jokes are not funny, and then you can make your show based off of the audience response. You can't really do that online. You don't have that interaction. And I've watched a couple of online shows, and a lot of those shows have suffered because they weren't able to like sharpen their jokes. But there was one guy who did have the funniest set that I've seen online during the quarantine. That was see if I can remember his name. Nope, can't remember his name. just
you
had
can
his name.
You can say it later after the episode and paste it.
Right.
We can vamp for you if you want.
That is exactly how it works. I'll remember long after this is over. But anyway, he had told the joke about racist Hulk Hogan, and it was and it was hilarious. So,
Oh, you mean just Hulk Hogan?
yeah. It was well, see, it's a complicated relationship with Hulk Hogan because he seemed like the front facing for decades and decades. He's been like a hero for a lot of people, especially people who like professional wrestling. Even when he turned quote heel, he wasn't that bad. It's like he's a heel, but at least he's not a racist, am I right? but
Wow.
and then the videotape came out and certain recordings and all this kind of thing, and this guy, and so now we have a complicated relationship. And then plus his friendship with Mr. T, who is also an icon to a lot of inner city youths growing up, and particularly how he helped out Harlem Heat become a star tag team. But yeah, it's complicated, right? So,
Oh yeah,
I just Googled racist Hulk Hogan because I was like, I think I can find this bit. And then I was like, oh, now I'm just discovering a lot of things about Hulk Hogan.
I got it. I remember his name. I got it. It's Ron Funches. Funches was, he did a show on Christopher Titus had been doing a series of online shows. So Ron Funches was one of the acts on one of these shows, and he was the one because he's a huge wrestling fan. He actually has gotten into some wrestling, which is kind of, he has his own finishing move. So I forgot what it was called, but it's hilarious.
If the Miz can do real world and be like, I want to be a wrestler, who cares? Honestly, if take it back, like I don't know. There's a lot of people that I'm just like, I would have been cool if Fritz Weatherby. Does anyone know who that is? I don't know why he's the first person that pops into my head.
That was a fake name that you just made up.
Fritz Weatherby?
Yeah,
is a real person. I actually think I might be thinking a celebrity, but he might be just a local New Hampshire celebrity.
That's just you looked around the room and you saw like a German flag, the Weather Channel was on, and then a picture of a bee, and you're like, Fritz Weatherby?
Fine, I'll go with Mr. Rogers. If Mr. Rogers at one point was like, I want to be a professional wrestler, I would have been like, fine, go for it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, some people are better at it than others, but and the Miz surprised me because I knew that he came from the real world, but they just don't let you into wrestling. They really put you through the roast, and he really took to it. He surprised me. He was like, I kind of like this guy. I like this guy's wrestling. He really did great in his career. But as Ron Funches, I don't think he's doing it because he wants to be a serious professional wrestler. He's just doing it as part of a bit, kind of like whenever celebrities get into the WWE and they do a little tumble and then they're it, and then that's their whole wrestling career.
It might even be like a dream of his where he was just like, I just always have wanted to be in SummerSlam. That's cool thing.
With Ron Funches, I would believe that. So he told the racist Hulk Hogan joke, and it's hilarious. If I try to tell it, I'll mess it up, but just take my word for it.
I'm gonna Google it so I can watch it later.
No, it's okay. It can't be half as bad as when we try to explain an improv scene that we were in. Be like, you just had to be there. Jim was a turtle. I was a volcano. It was just insane.
Oh,
right.
One of our friends describes it as describing a dream because you're just like, I don't care. I wasn't there. Oh, it was your uncle's house, but it wasn't actually your uncle's house, but you knew it was your uncle's house. Like, I don't care.
Right. So, what were your biggest comic influences?
Jim, do you want to tell everyone who you are?
You're gonna throw it at me again?
Oh, come on. I mean, what do you get called? We talked about this on our podcast the other night.
I get called John Mulaney a lot because of the way I speak, and I have like the same canter as him, and also I've been a fan of his for like 15 years. Whenever his first album came out, I've been he's someone that I've kind of heralded for a long time, and now he's mega popular, and I get to be like, I knew him before he was popular.
Right. Interestingly, it's funny that you should say, I mean, you say that you kind of talk like him when you do your bill. People think that you sound like him. And I guess that happens when you're a fan of somebody for 15 years. Like when you first start off, you just sound it, like involuntarily you sound like them. But then as you go on for like 10 or 15 years, then you start to sound like different.
Well, I sound nothing like my hero because I could never do the kind of comedy that Tig Notaro does because she is just amazing at like playing with silence. And playing like really just toying with the audience with such like I don't know, with just such bizarre let's lean into this awkward quiet moment we're having together stuff that I have way too much ADHD for, and way too like just insane of a personality to pull off.
Right.
But definitely a huge inspiration. And it's weird, you're asking me who I'm thinking about comedy influences. I grew up with parents also who loved these kind of movies that we're going to talk about, but also they were huge George Carlin fans. And also Howie Mandel was a dirty comedian. I grew up on a lot of his older stuff. So those were people who I didn't realize seeped into my head, and I grew up telling those kind of bits and relaying them.
It's funny.
That was mine.
It's funny you say George Carlin, because George Carlin was the first comedian. Because Comedy Central always used to have Comedy Central Presents, and I would watch. And one day I just started watching that, and I was like, oh, this is great. Stand-up comedy is amazing. I love watching this. Let me Google stand-up comedy and see what like the classics are. First thing that always would come up with George Carlin. And then I just became obsessed with George Carlin and would go through all of his stuff. And then I was like, okay, let's look up more things. And just like it kind of spiraled from there. Yeah. Like George Carlin and The Simpsons was a big one for me.
George Carlin is awesome. But it's like I loved him, especially when I was growing up. You gotta kind of wonder, is he really a comedian, or is he a lecturer that just so happens to be really funny, right?
Yeah,
he comes from that era, especially since his hero is Lenny Bruce. And I don't know if you've ever listened to Lenny Bruce. It's not funny. It's really like it's revolutionary, because like it changed stand up from like Bob Newhart, which Bob Newhart's great, by the way. But it changed Bob Newhart, like, oh, this is a guy talking on the phone. Like he comes on and he's like, this is a man talking on the phone and he's talking to his mother. All right, hello. Like that kind of bits. And then Lenny Bruce made it into, so this happened in my life and I fucking hate it.
Right.
Am I allowed to curse? I forgot to ask.
He was revolutionary for a lot of things, but it's not because he's funny, right?
Yeah, it's very unfunny, but like you see where the threads go.
Right. So what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, and then that inspired like Richard Pryor and everyone to like really change the game and make it like Richard Pryor is the guy who took Lenny Bruce and was like, what if we made this funny? Right.
So I like all of those. Have you guys, since you mentioned Tig Notaro, have you seen her on Star Trek Discovery?
I haven't watched it. So that's another thing that oh gosh, my dad's a huge Trekkie, and honestly, like he's all on board with my gender and like identity and my sexuality, but damn is he disappointed that I'm not a Star Trek fan. It's not that I'm indifferent and ignorant. I will watch every one of those movies on our podcast eventually. And I should watch the show. I'll watch Next Generation and I'll do it.
Right. Yeah.
From my understanding, skip the first season, because even Next Generation fans hate the first season.
Well, I don't hate the first season. There are some episodes that are problematic. What happened with the first season is like they're doing something that's like, okay, we got to continue the Trek legacy. We got to make it look exactly like 1960s Star Trek, and that's a problem that it had. It kind of carried through with a lot of some stories that were not used, or kind of like sequels of stories that were used in the 1960s, and then they gradually start to grow out of that and become their own thing. So I would just watch it just for the just to see the progression, but it's not necessary because it is 7 seasons. Yeah. 100 and some odd episodes.
They're all 45 minutes long, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. It was one of the most expensive television shows at that time. But there were some. You get to see the progression of Captain Picard from kind of being a hard ass to progressively becoming more personable as the seasons go on.
From my understanding, that's because Gene Roddenberry was really he did the first season. He was like, I'm going to take over this show. This is what I want, and this is how it's going to be. And all the writers were like, I don't really want to write it this way, and this doesn't feel like in line with what the real the feeling of Star Trek is. And then he got phased out by season 2, and then by then he was all the writers were like, okay, let's make this like a fun show that people like each other, because that's kind of the feeling of Star Trek.
Right. Well, it was more like his style of writing was really old fashioned. So and he really isn't a good writer, right? So so writers wanted to modernize the show, make it more relevant, because like remember, this is like almost 50 years later, so they're trying to make it more modern, and Gene Roddenberry was kind of stuck in the past. So and it's not like he was phased out, he just started to get sick. He got sick, and then by season 2, by the end of season 2, he was too sick to actually participate. And then I think before the 3rd season began, he had passed away. So that was basically what happened. He was like, oh, they celebrated like it was the Wizard of Oz. My bad. I didn't mean to turn it into a Trek fest over here.
Oh no, you're great. I might get this wrong, but I remember the one thing I did that's offended my dad was he would always make fun of Days of Our Lives and like, you know, the classic like, oh, your mom's watching her stories or drama stories. And then I remember seeing a little bit of Star Trek and be like, isn't yours just the same in space? Like, and I don't know if I'm wrong.
Well, no, it's not the same because they shoot phasers and they have spaceships.
This guy named Scott.
The main difference. They have spaceships and the spaceships shoot stuff. So,
okay. All right.
Get it? And then there's a morality tale. A morality tale. Like on Days of Our Lives, they never discuss whether Billy is a human or not. But on Star Trek, you get to have these discussions.
that to be honest, I've only seen like 4 or 5 episodes of Star Trek. I did like what I saw. I just have to actually go through and watch it. Anyway, that is the difference between a soap opera and Star Trek. Is it's such a philosophical show, because it's like, when someone comes on, it's like whether or not they're human, then it becomes like, but what is the meaning of humanity? Right.
Ooh. Oh, the meaning of humanity, that question comes up almost every episode.
Oh, yeah. Especially Next Generation, from my understanding.
Right. Or the value of life is like this 13-year-old just broke this planetary law. That means that we have to kill him. It's like, no, we can't. You can't kill this boy.
Oh yeah. That's what the Next Generation is.
I gotta be in the right mindset when I watch this show. Wow, I gotta be.
Yeah, the original series was a lot of like, because it was the 60s, it was a lot of like, what if we all like got along? Like, what if like all these different like races of people like were able to like come together and just explore the universe? And then obviously they had the what is the bad guys' names in that show?
Well, there are several bad guys. There are the Klingons,
the
Romulans, there are the Tholians, there and then a bunch of random people that they run into. It's basically like a creature of the enemy of the episode, enemy of the week type show. So every episode they had some kind of enemy they had to deal with.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing with superheroes, right? You gotta keep, you can't run out of villains. Just keep throwing, combine animals, whatever you got to do.
Right.
I don't care. Yeah.
Oh, here Batman faces off Calendar Man. He's a man who kills on. This is a real villain, by the way.
He's been in the movies.
He's played by the guy from Gilmore Girls.
He was in this the Suicide Squad, the second movie. He was there. Yeah. They had to come up with some creative names because they started to run out of villains.
Well, so, we did that in one of my favorite stupid improv scenes ever, is that we went around and it was just like, you're spreadsheet man, whatever. And we kept going. And then we got to my buddy Mike, who we love to make fun of. And we're like, and you're Towel Boy. Right. Get me my towel. Yeah. Get me my towel. I'm a sweaty superhero.
So have either of you guys thought about moving to like the West Coast to try to make it big in comedy, so to speak?
I'm going back to college and gonna get a steady job as a graphic designer. I don't know if that's steady. Well, I'll get one of those desk jobs and repeat making the same motion graphic over and over again. But maybe at some point. I mean, heck, so many people do it at 40. I'll do it at 45.
Our friend moved to Chicago, which is for improv. That's the place to make it big, quote unquote, in improv. And he did that, and he's in his 40s.
Right.
Yeah, you can do it whenever. And I'll say Scott Campbell, he's an incredible comedian. He is definitely going to be big out there.
Right. Oh, what was the question I was going to ask? I'm sorry.
West
I have the
Coast.
questions in front of me, but I'm skipping and jumping around. So,
You
So
listen
let
to
me-
our podcast, you know that that's what we do.
right.
I'm gonna be honest.
I have.
I'm impressed you have questions in front of you.
Right. You
Yeah.
guys, you guys have it. You guys go on tangents. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
listened to the episode where you were talking about what was that movie? Tremors. So when you were talking
one.
about Tremors, you had great segues. I have no segues on the show, but you had great segues. And sometimes you would think of a segue and just use it just to use the segue, but then go on talking about what you were talking about. That has nothing to do with the movie.
Wasn't that the bit of that episode that we just had segues to different things?
Yeah.
Oh, we had Siobhan O'Hara on, who's one of our
Right.
favorite friends.
Right.
Yeah. No,
So what inspired the name of the podcast, Rotten Treasure?
we'll
Kai.
give it to the same credit back to how me and Jim met in the first place. So the roommate that I had, Nathaniel May, lovely human, he did a test episodes. There are episodes that if you give us $1 million for, you can listen to how bad of a podcast we had before we started on All Dogs Go to Heaven. And he came on and it just kind of slipped out of his mouth. You know, it's kind of adjacent to like those hidden gems. And with the same energy, he kind of was just like, oh yeah, you know, you find these little like rotten treasures. And we were like, yup, that's it. We were considering, franchise history. At one point,
that was mine, and Kai was like, it describes the podcast, but it's way too boring.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to at one point do a few too many, which is my idea of getting drunk and then talking about them. But I'm not much of a drinker, and I don't even know if I'm a fun drunk. But I was like, oh, it'll be fun because there's so many sequels. Ha ha ha.
And I can't get blasted on a Wednesday night.
No, but having that fluid like name just happen in a test episode, it was just like fate. So you go with it.
Right.
And then I definitely made the logo reminiscent subtly. It's Gold Treasure Hunting meets Rotten Tomatoes logo, or the old one.
I don't think you
Rotten
should say that
Tomatoes.
legally. I think you
tell
shouldn't say
them.
that out loud on a recording.
It was inspired by. If people can make movies that have nothing to do with the real events, I can do this. I was inspired.
And it's funny because Jim's suggestions, it sounds like an NPR podcast.
Franchise history.
Yeah.
Yeah, hosted by Fritz Weatherby. That's
Right.
exactly who
Oh, so you designed the logo, Kai.
I did.
That's nice.
It definitely still needs cleanups. It's one of those things where I'm like, no one knows I'm a graphic designer. So like they won't critique me too much, but now I've admitted it. So anybody who's listening, go ahead and give me a hard time and encourage me to actually clean it up.
Right. I actually like it. I
thanks.
thought it looks great. I was like, oh, this looks like professional work, but
Thank you.
no, it is, but it's not like you outsourced it to somebody else. You did it yourself, so that's pretty awesome.
We did that, and the lovely intro song is done by none other than our host, Jim O'Donnell. He came up with it at like 2 a.m. in the morning in a fever dream, and then mumbled it to me in a Facebook audio message.
Yeah,
The best stuff happens out of fever dreams.
Yeah.
it was a real I can't get no satisfaction. That was how that came about. That was really it. I wish there was more of a story to that one.
All right. For my last question, let me ask you, are there any quotes from movie or TV from your early childhood or to your young adulthood that kind of floats in your head? Because there's stuff from like when I was growing up that just stays in my head and it comes out, whenever it wants to come out. So do you have something like that?
Ooh. I initially wanted you to take this off the get-go because one of the fun facts I found out about Jim is that at his old job, ShopRite, he would like do full monologues that he had memorized. If I'm not mistaken.
Or
was that where you were cleaning toilets at the police station?
That was when I was it was when I was cleaning toilets at the police station. By the way, the police, they poop everywhere. Their bathrooms were disgusting. I had to clean bathrooms in like a lot of locations in that building, and when you get to the police station part, oh god, they were absolutely animals. Anyway, no, I do monologues. I would memorize monologues because I wasn't allowed to like listen to music or anything. I would thank you. I wasn't allowed to listen to music or anything, so I would memorize these monologues from movies that I liked, and then I would do the opening scene to Full Metal Jacket, and then that would take up 15 minutes.
Wow.
And it was just like a thing that I did. I actually don't think I could do any of those monologues anymore because it's been like 15 years since I did that.
Right. I just remember like lines and snippets and things of that nature. Like when Optimus Prime, he's admonishing Ironhide, and he's like, "Remember, old friend, there's a thin line between being a hero and being a memory." See, it's a beautiful line.
No, it really is. Oh, Jim brought one into my world, and I mean, it's because we did Rocky, but out of the whole thing, here's a little rotten treasure, is in the Rocky Balboa, the 6th installment. I think one of my favorite things about going through this whole movie is when he blows up on his kid. And Jim, if you want to give it you could probably relay what he said better than I can.
That's how winning is done. Oh, that speech always gets to me.
Yeah, I mean, it just this trying to give your child the motivation to just keep on going and like challenge your the obstacles in your way. I loved it. It was a really great speech.
Right.
But it does make me, anytime that Jim is like, let's say he's in like a Pokemon tournament and I'm just over his shoulder, just like, that's how winning is done. Get it together.
Which reminds me of the quote from my childhood I remember the most, which comes from U2, which is, it's something like, it's not the circumstances of one's birth that matters, it's what you do with it. And it's like, what? Why was this in Pokemon the first movie?
Wait. So they're coming out, their hot take right away is that privilege doesn't exist?
Okay. U2 is evil, and he's trying to say if you're born evil, you don't necessarily have to be evil.
Okay, different message. Okay, cool.
Right. All right.
I was trying to get YouTube canceled on your podcast. I apologize.
No, you're fine. All right. So, are there any your socials or websites that you want to plug?
Sure. So we got to get a website together. We definitely can't say what our suggested. We don't know if this is we're going to keep it kid appropriate, Jim. But there is a website that Jim purchased at one point that's very inappropriate that we could reroute. But instead, we need to get rottentreasure.com going. But in the meantime, you can check us out on the socials. We are rotten_treasure on Instagram, but pretty much everything else, you can just type in Rotten Treasure or Rotten Treasure Podcast on TikTok for that matter, and you'll get us. Twitter, TikTok, which we haven't touched in a month, Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. All right. I will make sure that I put those links to the show notes so that our audience can find you.
And soon to be YouTube. And I only say that to get the fire underneath their butt. So, yep.
Right.
It's gonna happen.
We've also been discussing doing Twitch, so I'm also going to put that fire under our butts as well.
Yep.
Awesome,
we're gonna get live, y'all.
All right. So now we're going to transfer over to our next segment, and I'm going to start calling it right here, right now, Hot Take. I'm going to say that this new segment, it's not a new segment. It's the same old segment. I'm just giving it a name. And the name of it is called Opening Credits. And we're going to talk about this movie that we had just watched, and the movie that we had just, when did you guys watch it?
Oh,
last night.
I watched it last night. Yeah.
Yeah. So did I. We all watched it yesterday. And this movie is Roadhouse. So why don't you tell us about Roadhouse?
Well, do you want me to do my own words or the beautiful words I have here? Did you, I mean, my general understanding of this entire film, is that what I'm giving just fluidly? Yeah. I apologize. I wasn't sure if you were segmenting towards this beautiful content here, but
yeah, I was, but go ahead.
Oh, no. Do it. Well, I mean, my evaluation of it is just big, beautiful bouncer man who gets paid way too much, has to go around and make bars that are really horribly terrifying into places that are like, okay, and have polos now because they wear polos. So you know that they're, or red shirts. So they're better. And they're doing well. Jim, did I miss anything? And like a lot of fighting, like a lot.
Well,
yeah,
I would argue that given that he's being punched and stabbed constantly,
fair.
that he's getting paid the right amount of money. That's why.
Oh, fair. Yeah, I guess he knows his worth. You know what? Yeah, he is an artist.
No.
Yeah, he's an artist.
That man is being paid exactly how much he is worth. I'm going to be honest with you.
Right.
He has to buy a car and repair it every single
day.
day.
Every single day. It's like with me, punch me in the face, like, oh, I guess I'm not quite out for the job. I quit. Right.
Is it okay if I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I thought I was just here to escort people out of the building. I didn't think that I was gonna have to
get stabbed regularly.
Get stabbed, right? I didn't know I was gonna have to get stabbed. I didn't realize
regularly.
That was part of the deal. Then I have to sew myself now. I don't know. I mean, if I want to do that.
The fact that he has that kit and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna need it. This is a regular thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna flinch. Go right to my kit, hook it up, and go back to work. Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was good.
Oh, I was going to say, to clarify a little bit cleanly, Dalton is essentially just a cooler in bars. He kind of is like, he backs up and like directs other bouncers. He takes in a job, which I honestly took me a while. I'm like, oh, Roadhouse. I get it. It's a bar. I don't know why it took me 20 minutes in the film to be like, that's okay. Well, here's Jim. And it hits. But yeah, he attempts to clean things up, but unfortunately has conflict with Brad Wesley, a very threatening looking man, so large and terrifying. He's like the wealthy town bully who thinks he's in Europe sometimes. I don't know. He doesn't know which side of the road to drive on. But yeah, that's
that was
it's a reckless driver. That's my least favorite thing about him.
Yeah, I think I saw that scene and was like, where does this fit in? Who is this guy? Why do we just see him for that one scene? I just didn't recognize him. The man has a similar. The man's face just looked different to me in that moment. I was just like, ooh, is that the same guy? I don't know.
Right, and that was given to us by Jim Vogel from JL Vogel at Comcast.net. That was via IMDb because it's too much work to come up with the original words. So I copy other people's.
No, I like get that credit out there. No, that's good. Hey, Jim, when was this released?
It was released May 19th, 1989 by Silver Pictures and Star Panthers 2 Limited. And I did so I looked up the numbers on this. And the numbers you had gave me are a little different.
Okay.
And I just wanted to see because it grossed. Ooh, where am I seeing this? Okay, it said I looked at the box office. Said it grossed 30 million in the United States and Canada, and then 31 million internationally for a total of 61 million.
Oh, you're right. You know what happened? Those numbers come from a different show.
Thank God. I was this whole time. I was like, I don't know where these numbers came from.
Yeah.
I was like Googling like, okay, maybe he adjusted for inflation. Let's see. No, the inflation is only like $120 million.
Thank you for fixing that for me.
Okay.
Yeah. All
the
those.
budget.
Yeah. It did not. It was like the budget was like 30 million and it makes 60 million or something like that.
It was 15 million and then it made 61 million, which
61. So
that means it made a profit.
Yeah, barely. Yes, because they never actually report what the real budget is. And so this is just like they guess when they report the budget, and then they never count their marketing. And this movie was very well marketed. So it probably did not make its money back, or maybe it barely broke even. But a lot of people would consider this movie a flop. And I'm surprised because I love this movie.
I knew it. Well, I mean, yeah, obviously. I mean, do you typically love every single movie you bring on the pod?
Yeah. The whole
okay. No. I just wanted to make sure. I mean, if it's like a full throttle love, I was like, there's got to be a movie where it's just like, I need to talk about this movie because it's so ridiculous.
Right. Well, I do have some of those movies that like I don't know if I've like the most ridiculous movie that I haven't done yet is Buckaroo Banzai. But
okay, I've seen that one. Yeah.
But one of the movies that is both ridiculous and one of my favorite movies is The Last Dragon. And
okay.
Yeah, and actually there's going to be some trivia that relates to The Last Dragon later on in this in the show, in the trivia. But yeah, that is both incredibly ridiculous, and there's a lot of racial appropriation, but it's one of the most fun times I have in the movie theater.
Just the combo of those two sentences. Yeah. Yeah. Put that on the back of the DVD and sell it.
Right.
A lot of racial appropriation, but just a fun time.
Right. Absolutely. I say that with love in my heart. So this movie stars Patrick Swayze as James Dalton. He's known for Dirty Dancing, Point Break, and Ghost. And a fun fact about Patrick Swayze: did you know that for a little while his last name Swayze was actually a slang for, well, maybe not a slang, maybe it's just something that DMX was saying, but I always thought that people were using it as slang as for being cool or like just mainly awesome. But I mainly get it from DMX in the song, what's that song called? Rough Riders Anthem. I don't know if you've heard that.
Oh yeah. Stop, drop, shut them down, open up shop. I'm aware.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
And so I'm not gonna go ahead and curse on the podcast, but it's like there's a part where he goes, well, I can curse, I just don't want to say this word. But there's a verse where he goes, is y'all inwards crazy? I'll bust you and be Swayze. And he's making reference to Patrick Swayze. I was like, oh, that's sweet. I like it. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I could hear that line now in my
head. Right.
But I can see just being casual, like, oh, you got a real like Swayze walk.
Yeah, that too. All right, you guys can carry on. I'm sorry.
No worries. So this is another actor here, Kelly Lynch, playing Dr. Elizabeth, or just simply Doc Clay, MD. So totally everyone will remember her from Charlie's Angels as well as Drugstore Cowboy, obviously.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, actually, though.
I mean, I'm just always out of my loop.
But
I don't. And then something called Virtuosity.
Virtuosity.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
That's hold on. Wait, real quick. We'll copy paste. Virtuosity. Did I say it wrong again?
No, it was perfect. I don't. It's like I've never seen her before. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Kelly Lynch. You see her and then you're just like, yeah, it's the girl from Roadhouse kind of thing.
Right. Basically, yeah. Oh yeah, you can go on.
I was gonna say, do you recognize the next person, Jim?
I do recognize the next person, which is Sam Elliott, who plays Wade Garrett from A Star Is Born, The Big Lebowski, Hulk. He's just a guy that shows up. He's also he's the other Ron in Parks and Recreation. He's just a guy who shows up, has a great voice, and you're like, oh, he's just a cowboy. He's come to town and he's a little mysterious. Anyway, here's some words of wisdom. I'm out of here. That's just Sam Elliott.
Yeah, he's got a great voice and demeanor. And in this movie, he was particularly fit. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that Sam Elliott was fit.
It was weird seeing him with that hair because I'm used to seeing him with like shorter hair, like a little more cropped. And it was like, oh, he at one time was a bouncer in a bar looking guy.
Right.
I think it worked for him. It was a good look. I think he killed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So next is Ben Gazzara. He played Brad Wesley. He's been in Capone, Saint Jack, and Anatomy of a Murder. So I'm not familiar with him or his work, but he did a really good job in this movie.
I'm aware of the movie Anatomy for a Murder. I've never actually seen it. If I remember, Anatomy of a Murder might be the movie. Yeah, that's the movie that you remember the movie Clockers, the Spike Lee movie.
I'm familiar with it. I've never seen it.
If you've ever seen the poster for it, Spike Lee stole the poster from Anatomy for a Murder for Clockers. That's kind of the big thing I know about Anatomy of a Murder.
Right.
That's it, though.
How do I not remember this person? Okay, so Marshall R. Teague playing Jimmy was apparently in the movie Armageddon, and I don't remember placing him in that movie, but also Babylon 5 and then Last Ounce of Courage.
Right. He may not have had a huge role in any of those movies, but
Gotcha.
if you go looking for him, that's probably like those are the biggest movies that you'll probably see him in.
Oh, yeah,
And,
like even himself was like, and that's me.
Right.
In the movie.
Right,
Yes, I'm in it.
right. And I think the biggest thing that he was probably in was Babylon 5. And in that's a show that where he was caked in makeup because he was playing an alien. So
At least, great career.
Right. Yeah, you get it where you can get it, right?
I'd take it. I would.
Oh, I'll take any role. I don't care. Like,
Right.
There's a lot of people. They're like, why would they take this role? It's such a small role. It's like, I don't. It's work. Put me out there.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's your turn.
Oh, okay. The next person we have is Julie Michaels, who played Denise from Chick Fight, Last Rites, and Baywatch.
Right. That I put a note there. I'm glad you didn't read it. So Chick
Okay,
Fight.
cool.
Right. Chick Fight is a movie that came out last year. And the note that I put there was Alec because it stars Alec Baldwin. He's also in the movie. And I made a note of that because he was also filming a movie where he shot and killed somebody. And so I wonder how Chick Fight did last year. Probably not well. Probably not very well. I mean, one, because of the pandemic, and two, because he's in the movie, kind of messing things up.
The box office was $76,000 for Chick Fight.
Oh, you know about that movie?
Well, I'm looking it up right now.
Oh,
I wish I was that. I wish I was that into movies where I could tell you the box office of every movie ever. But no, I'm just Googling it.
Right. So next up is Red West. He plays Red Webster. He was in Safe House, The Rainmaker, and Black Sheep.
Wow.
Oh, I know Black Sheep. That's the Chris Farley movie.
Yeah, it's the not Tommy Boy movie.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really it. It's
right.
The only part I remember is when they say road's weird.
Ruads. It's Ruads.
Yeah.
I never seen it, so I don't know.
I watched it on Comedy Central. You really don't need to.
Next actually brings me joy to know that he was actually I just can't believe I didn't get this. Best name ever, Sunshine Parker, playing Farmer Emmett, also in the movie Tremors. Which is great. He's the dude who it's that guy, the guy who dies that doesn't get any lines, that's just stuck in a tower.
I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Nope.
Yeah, he got plenty of lines. He's way more he had a lot more participation in Roadhouse than
Oh yeah. Good for him. Having lines.
Right.
A joke that my girlfriend and I kept making during the movie was that everyone was a love interest, because like the first half was just everyone being like, oh my God, that's Dalton. And then like looking at him in like a alluring way. And then we were just joking the whole time, like, I hope he ends up with the farmer. I hope that's the one he ends up with.
You know what? I had meant to bring this up, but Emmett was giving Dalton some long looks. Like Dalton was like half naked doing his Pilates or whatever it was. And Emmett was like, if I was 20 years younger.
Oh, that's what
that's exactly what we're thinking.
No, they're trying to get everybody in on this movie. They got because we know women were going nuts for Patrick Swayze during this time, but also they're like, maybe we should probably have a little bit of male gaze on this guy. And we did it.
And there was a lot. Yeah. There was a lot of guys who looked at him and you're like, that guy, I could go for this.
Right.
I would have been very happy if this movie was Patrick Swayze changes the sexuality of an entire small town. But next up we have is Jeff Healey, who played Cody, and he's from the Jeff Healey Band.
Yes, he was real big back in that day. I remember that guy, like watching him on television, watching this man play. He's a fabulous musician, and it's like when he came on the screen, I was like, "Oh yeah, it's that guy. I remember that guy."
Yeah, a lot of him very poorly lip syncing to the music in the movie. It's fun. It's great music. It fits the movie perfectly. But there's a lot of times where it's like he's doing a guitar solo and both of his hands are off the guitar at that time, and you're like, okay, guys.
Well, I don't know if it was him or it was the guy behind him that was playing. I don't know how music works. So next up was Kevin Ty. I want to say it's Ty.
Good.
And he plays Tigman. And Tigman was in Another 48 Hours and K9. And this is funny because Tigman is almost always the bad guy in movies. This is the very rare occasion where he's playing an a good rich guy, right? Or maybe not rich, but very well off.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
boy.
Yeah.
You know who that is now, Jim? Is it another that guy? No.
I'm gonna look him up, but I know the name Kevin Ty.
We have Kathleen Wilhoit, I'm gonna say, who plays Carrie and was in a movie we all know and love, Private School.
Right. She's featured prominently in that movie. But the other movies, perhaps not so prominently. And then she's mainly spent her time on television shows.
Because she is in the television show Gilmore Girls.
That is correct.
She plays Jess's mother.
Yes, I never watched Gilmore Girls, but I did notice that she was on many episodes of that show. So I imagine that she was a featured character.
Yeah, my girlfriend was like, oh, that's Jess's mom. And I was like, oh, I can't wait for it, because I'm watching Gilmore Girls right now. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait for her to show up now so I could be like, it's the Roadhouse lady.
All right, Jim, speaking of professional wrestlers.
Oh, yeah. Terry Funk plays Morgan, who's a professional wrestler.
Right. Mainly in NW. I think it was NWA. I don't know. It was like Terry Funk was a little bit before my time, but I recognize him when I see him. And I asked Zach if he knew which one of those guys, like you see a bunch of guys walking around. It's like, which one of those you think is Terry Funk? He's like, well, it's got to be that big guy right there. Like he's not the tallest, but he's like the widest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's also the guy that you go, that guy looks real familiar, and I cannot place who he is. And it wasn't until just now when I looked up a picture and it was just like, oh, that's Terry Funk. Right. Okay.
Right. And
I've seen this guy.
Right. And last on the list is Keith David. He played Ernie Bass, and he was in The Thing, also in Armageddon, and he plays in Rick and Morty as the president of the United States.
Oh, no.
I love Keith. Yeah.
Keith David is a great character actor who shows up in things, and he's just a guy you go, oh, Keith David, there he is.
Right. Absolutely. And the funny thing about this is that his name is in the opening credits. And it's like, because when I was doing the when I was putting the people who are in the movie in this list, I was getting it from IMDb, and he's not one of the main characters in IMDb. But when you go and watch the movie, he's in the opening credits. Like, whoa, why is he in the opening credits? But he's only in the second half of the movie, and you barely see him. He's just in the background, and a lot of his scenes got cut. And
he's the bartender.
I go with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's the new bartender, the replacement bartender, and a lot of his scenes got cut, which is why his name is in the opening credit, but he's barely in the movie.
That makes sense. His contract was like, oh, you've got X amount of lines, and then
right.
It got cut down to like running out of whiskey.
Right,
that was really it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
How can you do that to that voice, right?
I couldn't forget that because the whole time I was watching out for Keith David, and as soon as he showed up, I was like, there he is, and then he went away, and I was like, oh.
Jim, if we're ever floating in a scene and neither one of us is saying anything when we're doing improv, just like drop out, well, we're running out of whiskey. Awkward silence. And then say anything for the rest of the scene.
and then you turn around and you go, most popular bar in town, and and we're just running out of whiskey. I forget what the line was.
Hold on a second. I forgot to plug in my computer. Hold on.
No, you're good.
Yeah, it's I unplugged it because it's like, okay, the battery's full. I should probably unplug it. Then I realized, maybe I should plug it back in before the show begins.
Oh, and the power of editing.
And then I totally forget to do it.
Oh, I've yet to have my computer die while recording. That'll happen eventually.
Absolutely. I'm waiting for that eventuality. But so far, I'm waiting for the time when I'm starting one of these Zoom meetings and I forget to press the record button, which is the whole purpose of having the Zoom meeting. Otherwise, I wouldn't even use it.
No, I did that one time with my Audacity, not for one of our episodes, for when we were on the Hey, Let's Talk About That podcast.
You'll get it eventually. There's a great podcast, everybody, called Hey, Let Me Ask You Something.
Damn it.
A lovely therapist named Kristen Wood, and also our dear improv teacher in the past and friend, Ralph Andracchio. who's a life coach. And that's it. Yeah, I said it right. Hey, let me ask you something. I'm sorry, Jim. What were you saying incorrectly?
That was it. No, I just forgot to do Audacity for that one.
Right. So this movie was directed by Rowdy Harrington. He's also directed such gems as Striking Force, starring Bruce Willis, Repo Man, and The Stick Up. None of these movies particularly stand out for me. He's directed a few other movies, but he's not what you would think of as like the bomb director. Right.
Yeah.
Like a stellar talent. I'm not seeing that in this guy, but this is a great movie.
Repo Man is a cult classic type movie. Kind of like a punk sort of movie. It's pretty good. It's got Howard Dean Stanton in it.
Okay.
And Emilio Estevez.
I should probably check that out because this movie, Roadhouse, this is also a cult classic.
Yeah, this is like it's a young punk movie. I liked it. It's kind of like it's just kind of one of those 80s movies that you're like, that are just very, very 80s. That's kind of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. This is the if you want to talk about the 80s, you can't talk about the 80s without talking about Roadhouse. This has all the 80s stuff in it.
The mullet.
The mullet. Check.
The
obligatory sex scene. Check. Breasts. Check. We got it.
The classic guy rips throat out of a guy. Yeah.
Right.
Classic like 80s.
Unrealistic explosions. Check. A car crashes, explodes.
I loved that explosion.
Yeah.
I loved all the explosions because all of them were wild.
Right. Like way out of proportion. This is a farmhouse. It has no electricity. The biggest explosion we can have is
it doesn't have electricity. Perfect. They made a point to say that. Yeah.
Right. All right. So you guys go ahead, take it.
No worries. So next, this blows my brain away. So we've written by R. Lance Hall, and this is the thing that blew my mind. This was also co-written by a woman. What? I mean, it is the 80s, so all of her ideas, I think, just didn't happen. And they're like, well, we did in your contract say that you were a screen. Like, unless she came in and out, she's like, look, I love it if all the women were just completely naked all the time and only use the sexualized characters. And you're like, great. And they're like, we're going to give you $1 million, Hillary. But yeah, so we have R. Lance Hill, who is known for doing Out for Justice, starring classically another person appropriate for this time, Steven Seagal, another let's just have him fight the whole movie guy.
Right.
And then there's Hillary Henkin, who you might know from Wag the Dog as well as Fatal Beauty.
Wag the Dog was a big movie.
It was a huge movie. In the 90s. So yeah, I think that you can kind of see her influence because at least the Doc is a much stronger character. For one thing, she has her nickname is Doc. It's not like Cutie or Beauty or something overly feminine. It's Doc, and I thought that was it was like everybody calls her that. And then that she has a respectable job. She doesn't like just fold over Dalton, right? Because like Dalton wants to leave, and like no, she's like, I'm not going nowhere. Get your machismo off of me, right? So
no, they gave, as we call it in the world of improv, they punched up. They didn't punch down. Like they were like, let's have her be the one who wins. She's a successful career and very intelligent, and I don't know. Yeah. Also, they were like, and she's beautiful. She is. She's very pretty.
There's a possibility that the way that this worked was whatever his name is, R. Lance Hall, wrote the movie, like wrote out the whole script. And then they were like, they read the script and went, this is like, none of these people speak like humans at all. Right. We need like some kind of element. And then they gave it to Hillary Henkin.
And you can see elements of that. It was like, ooh, some of this is badly written. It's not that it didn't age well. It's just bad. Yeah. It's like nobody talks like this. Pain don't hurt. Nobody says pain don't hurt. Yes, pain obviously hurts.
It's the point of pain.
Right.
Yeah, it feels like that guy wrote like what in his mind was the most badass movie ever. And then she came in and was like, let's make sure that there's like relationships between people.
Right. Let's make sure we're writing about actual humans.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's probably it.
Why don't you tell us about the music?
Yeah, the music was by Michael Kamen, who did Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Don Juan DeMarco, and X-Men, which I didn't know. That's the thing about the people who do music for movies is they have just such a wide variety of movies that they'll do, because either it can all sound very similar and it's just movie music, which is
right.
I say that it sounds like I'm saying that demeaning. It's an art form in and of itself, but or they're like, I want to challenge myself. I do all these completely different feelings.
Right. You can kind of tell when somebody's just doing like movie music, especially if it's a low budget movie, and then when they're really trying. So I can see elements of later movies and when I listen to the music in this movie. So I think I don't know if he did Lethal Weapon, but I feel like I heard some elements of the Lethal Weapon soundtrack, which is also fantastic. But yeah, musicians rarely do bad work. Like you can have like the worst movie and they can have like some of the best soundtracks or musical scores. That could be like the best part of the movie.
Zoe, let me tell you something. He did do music for the Lethal Weapon series.
Thank you for helping me out, because I only did a few of those things.
He was also a session musician for The Wall, which is very interesting. Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Oh,
wow.
Okay. Right. Okay. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, Michael came and be on his job.
One thing that surprised me to find out, little fun fact, and maybe y'all remember the names of them, but apparently Patrick Swayze is like sang on one of these songs. He
sang on two of these songs.
Okay, two of the songs.
Yes, also in the trivia section. I think he wrote one of them. So I was like, Patrick Swayze can sing? Oh my God, I got to go find the soundtrack now. It's
like when Clint Eastwood sang in that one movie. And you're like, Clint Eastwood? Okay.
Well, actually, we just did Unforgiven, and he wrote the music. He wrote the score for Unforgiven.
That's amazing. Wow.
He basically, well, I don't want to say he wrote the whole score, but he kind of wrote what he wanted, and then the composer had turned it into a score.
Right.
So he doesn't actually get credit for the music, but it's known that he wrote the music for Unforgiven.
Yeah.
So, I was like,
which you had mentioned that movie is one of the movies we could do. And I didn't want to push too hard for it, but Unforgiven, I've just recently watched it. It shot way up to one of my favorite movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
Talk about something like I asked you earlier, one of the lines that live with you. So it's funny, when I did the rewatch with Zachary, I actually had no memory of this movie except at the very end. The only thing that I actually remember, so everything was like new to me. It's like I was watching a brand new movie for the first time with Zach. So the thing that I remember is like the very last line where Clint Eastwood is like, "And I'll kill every one of you sons of bitches."
He does say that.
That just warms me to my heart.
Yeah, it's a great movie about a guy who gives up killing. It's a Western about a guy who's given up killing. And then it's all about like the morality of being a killer sort of thing. And like many older men who are struggling with it, including one is Morgan Freeman. Mm-hmm. And then in the end, after seeing like a whole destruction go through, he just goes, I can't do this anymore. I have to kill everyone. And
right.
Really.
So I actually went, it's the death of his partner. So he goes out there and basically they're both former killers, but they've both given up the life of killing. They're trying to live normal lives. And then kid comes along, gives them a contract. Would you like to come and kill this dude? You need the money. You're both, struggling to survive out here. You need the money. How about you come and help me kill this dude? So, to pick up contract killing again. Yeah. And they're both a little out of, they haven't killed in decades. So they're out of practice of killing human beings. And so it shows the effect of having to kill somebody after you've given up killing.
There's a beautiful scene with Morgan Freeman where he's trying to kill someone and he physically just cannot do it.
Right. Physically, psychologically,
Jim,
emotionally can't do it.
He can't bring himself to do it.
I'm not going to get you in trouble on the podcast, and I'll use my words very carefully, but let's just say I understand why Jim relates to this movie.
I don't think we want that on a recording now.
I think, honestly, Jim, I'm just going to say your Life of Improv was a better choice. You're doing great.
It is funny though that like structure of Unforgiven is very similar to Roadhouse, except for in Unforgiven, the whole thing is about how they're former killers who have to kill again. But the structure of doesn't want to like go too far. Oh, my partner got killed. Time to go too far. That's
right.
The structure
right,
of Roadhouse.
Right.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of the movie is when, as soon as the woman comes and she tells him that his partner got killed, and she talks about it because she thought he knew and he didn't know, and he doesn't believe her at first. It's like, no, they couldn't have killed him. He left. He went home because he couldn't kill no more. He had nothing to do with this. But you know, when he starts to believe her, he takes the whiskey and he starts to drink it. I was like, oh, now he's done. Because remember, he gave up drinking because drinking was what caused him. He believes that's the thing that kind of encouraged him to be a killer, that gave him the ability. That was his power pellet or his spinach from Popeye.
Yeah,
so
a little bit of an allegory for alcoholism.
In
there. It's a great movie.
Right. So, you know, he believes that his friend is dead. It's time to take a drink. It's time to get on the horses and bring about some justice.
Yeah, this movie, Roadhouse.
That's what I will be saying every time I go out drinking with my friends.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Kai's gonna murder people tonight.
Kai, you're gonna be one of the through lines of Unforgiven was Clint Eastwood saying over and over again to anybody who would listen, I don't do that no more. You know, like when they try to get him to kill, it's like, well, I don't do that no more. I ain't like that no more. And that's you going to a bar. I don't do that no more. And then and then you get a couple of drinks and you're like, I'm gonna kill every one of you sons of bitches. I can imagine that.
On the table dancing. Yeah. I see it. It's happening. Yeah. I'll visit Philly real soon, Jim. I'm coming.
All right. So that's it for the opening credits. And now we're going to go and look at some news stories now. I didn't find a whole bunch of news stories. There's only like one thing that I heard that was interesting. So this is like stuff I heard. So have you heard about, this is according to Boing Boing, former child actor Kai Bobbi talk about trying to pronounce names. Now let me try this again. No, hold on. I'm gonna get it. Kai Bobbi is returning to movies. He's famous for playing Data in The Goonies and Short Round in Indiana Jones, which is my favorite role that he played. Yeah. And Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And he'll be back for this in a sci-fi odyssey, Everything Everywhere All at Once, also featuring Michelle Yeoh as his wife. Now, this dude has been absent from movies for, I think, I want to say 30 years, 40 years, something like that. And so now he wants to get back into acting. So that I found that to be fascinating. Because it's one of those guys like, I wonder what happened to that guy. He seemed to have a promising career, right?
Well, they better not do that thing where like on the first like 10 minutes of the movie, like they'll like a wink to the audience, like, oh, they said the reference to Goonies. He said
he spelled S-H-I-T.
If you can work in, look, I know you're not an improviser, but just work in booby traps, somehow in there, just casually, let it happen naturally.
Yeah, I'm 90% sure that there are going to be some references because he wants the people to know who he is. Right. So if people are watching the movie, they don't know who he is. It's just for them, it's a brand new actor, and then he'll say something about Dr. Jones, and they're like, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah.
That's just it's just is his doctor. Yeah.
Right. Dr. Jones, my knees hurt. Right.
Yeah. And he's like, no time for love, Dr. Jones.
All right. So now we're moving right along. We're gonna go into our next segment. And that segment is we talk about our favorite parts. We're gonna talk about what our favorite parts in the movie Roadhouse. We kind of went over some of this stuff already, but let's go on right through. You guys start. What were your favorite parts of this
I'm excited
movie?
right off the get-go, and it was early on in the movie, but when they had that first bar brawl and there's that guy who is just like, they keep panning him at the end of the bar, just like being like giggling and kind of like being like, whoa, this is insane, and kind of just like bopping around. I was like, that guy's a Muppet. That guy is just a Muppet. He is a human but inside is a Muppet. Because the way he like falls off of that stool, 100% just like so silly, so goofy. But yeah, that tickled the funny bone real hard right off the get-go.
Right.
I really loved when he comes back to his him and Doc come back to his car after their date, and there's a stop sign that's been shoved through his window. It's very, very funny. It was a very funnily timed joke, and it felt like the only joke that like they did on purpose that made me laugh. Is him taking it out of the like out of nowhere. He's just like, all right, well, I just have to take this stop sign out so I can go home for the night.
Right. I liked how overly prepared he was. Like first, he doesn't use his actual car. He buys a junker that he because you don't know why he's doing this. Like I don't understand the purpose of him having an old car, giving it away to that old man, and then B, getting into his Mercedes Benz and driving all the way up because somehow, as macho as he is, he's afraid of flying. And then C, and C going to a lot and buying another like old car. And then you see why is because, as his job as a bouncer, he knows that his car is going to be constantly attacked. and it's like, not only did he get the car, but he got four tires off the bat. Like he already knows.
Yeah,
like he already understands what's going on. And so that whole part, like how they set that up, that was I really like that. And then basically all of the fights were my favorite parts. All of the fight scenes were fantastic. I like that it was it was well choreographed, but not like too choreographed. So it looked kind of real, even though it's not. So it's like they didn't do too many, like they didn't do any like flips or some wild kicks. They look all convincing.
I think it's because some of them got hurt for real and they probably just flat out improvised.
I wrote down that all the fight scenes were like they're just silly enough that like you remember things. Like when the guy goes to kick him in the face because he has the knife in his shoe, and he grabs his leg and breaks it. Right. Because that's very silly and it's very memorable, but it's not quite ridiculous. Like it's not to the point where I'm like, all right, guys, let's do this. Like he'll like shatter a man's face in a on a table, and I'm just like, I remember that. Right. He did a good job choreographing that and like directing that and filming it, and then, but it's not quite like it's just a hair off of being super silly.
Right.
Yeah, the right like backtrack. You put some like Three Stooges business behind that, and you could. It's all about the score. Honestly, I think that part.
If Yakety Sax was playing,
it would have been perfect. That's what I mean. You put that to it. Anybody who's a film editor, make that happen and send it on into the pod because, and
then it'll be the great outdoors.
Yeah.
Right. I a lot of my favorite parts basically have him. Basically, when he's approaching somebody being rowdy, and how he, just not even a real fight, but just making some defensive moves and then carrying him out the bar. Those are all fun.
He's very Mr. Like I was like, did he learn from Mr. Miyagi? Like it's very, like don't really fight unless you have to ordeal. And I kind of respected that idea. I mean, that's every now and then I'm like, God, you should really take a class on how to like defend yourself.
Right.
I don't do it because I want to watch TV, but
that was really my favorite part of the movie is him giving that speech, which is a very ridiculous speech. It's a very over the top, weird speech. But it's just like not quite too ridiculous. It was enjoyable to watch him be like, all right, first rule, you're not going to do anything in the bar. You're going to take it outside the bar. And I was like, I'm entertained watching this.
Right.
Yeah, I had like the sense of irony to be like, yeah, this is silly. And this is a wacky thing that's going on. But also, I'm enjoying this. I like it.
Right. It was also one of my favorite parts. And I actually thought, yeah, that actually makes sense. Yeah, don't overestimate your opponent because it's like he might be a drunken brawler, but he might know how to fight. It's like you might need some help. Oh, or like when the guy asked a question, when do we know how to fight? He's like, you don't. I'll tell you when it's time to fight.
Well, he does. He kind of gives that nod. Like he does that like no language needed, but like, all right, henchman, do the fight now.
Yeah. So
Good advice on taking it outside. And then, yeah, I didn't watch the movie before you sent me an email with "be nice." I usually say "be well" at the end of my emails.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I'll do my best. Like I didn't know the context yet. And I was just right. Got you.
I noticed that too. And I was like, oh,
it's kind of nice.
Are we going to be mean? Does Zoe think that we're mean? Oh, crap.
I had not realized that I'd be sending you the email. You hadn't gotten the reference yet. But "be nice" was funny because that was like the main threat. It's like his whole philosophy is like, take him out, but be nice, approach him, but be nice and escort him out the bar. Still be nice. What if she called your mom a cocksucker? Is she?
Oh, yeah.
That was beautiful. I
also loved his response of "cocksucker" is just two words that are put together to elicit a response. And just
right.
Like, yeah, that's how I also look at that word.
Yeah.
Right. Which is funny because later on, another one of my favorite parts is like when he's fighting that dude T, I forgot his name already, but the fight that he has with the dude that just blew up the barn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, that dude.
That's Jimmy. He's played by Marshall T.
Oh, that's right.
So he has a fight with Jimmy, and during the fight, Jimmy makes a comment. I used to fuck guys like you in prison. So I'm like,
yep, classic stuff. Good stuff.
So,
oh my god,
I think he knows a little bit about being called a cocksucker. That's all I'm saying.
What a time! Oh, the '80s. You wrote this stuff. Oh my god. Oh, that was definitely Hillary's idea. She wrote that. That was.
Oh yeah. Let's humanize this guy a little bit.
Right.
Oh my god.
This man's had sex in prison.
So just remember, Marshall T. There's something in the trivia about between him and Patrick Swayze, that particular line and Marshall Teague's mom. So going on, does anybody jump in? Any more favorite parts you have?
Oh, I got 100% favorite. First off, Buick. I don't know how much you paid to get in this movie, or they paid you. I don't know what really the dynamic was, but
it's called sponsored by. It's like I remember
sure.
Jurassic World, how there was like randomly commercials for the cars that were in the movie.
Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. That's what happened here.
Well, no, that was the best thing. So once again, hold on, we can curse on this podcast?
Yes, absolutely.
Great, awesome. So there was a sign on the wall that said for a great fuck, call 555, because that's the best number for a phone. 7617, just in case anybody wants to call it, go ahead. But when he grabbed that marker and made it say for a great Buick,
that was awesome.
So stupid. He went so good.
He went farther than I expected because I thought he was going to write puck, P-U-C-K. It doesn't make any sense, but it's a good reference to Pac-Man. But no, he wrote out the word Buick, which was awesome.
Yeah, it went from like, what's he going to do? Oh, okay, it's a commercial. I got it.
Right. And at first I thought he was gonna like wipe it clean, but no, he's gonna make a completely different graffiti. I think maybe that was his number, and that that was the Buick owner's number. Maybe. And then and he was like, well, let me help this guy out.
Well, I'd seen someone do that recently. Somebody on a dumpster near my job wrote "kill cops," and someone switched it over to say "Bill Oops." And that was like such a weird morning for me that I had actually I realized I never told anybody else that it was just one of those moments where you pause, you go, huh, okay. And you just go about your day. But Bill Oops is my new, it's kind of like the alternative to like what is it, fuck Brandon or whatever the heck everyone says for Joe Biden. I'm just gonna casually be like, Bill Oops. That's the new ACAB.
Or maybe your euphemism for cops is like, call the Bill Oops.
Yeah. Bill Oops are here. Scatter, it's Bill Oops.
Right. Plus the drugs, I'm told Bill Oops is at the door.
Oh my
god. This movie did have one of my favorite things that could ever show up in anything, not just movies, which is a monster truck. I love the monster truck in this movie because it's just two guys casually driving a monster truck around this small town, and then they drive it through a dealership. And I was like, there's no purpose to this movie other than to show the fact that the bad guy's evil, which we already knew at this point.
Right. You know what's funny? what's funny about it is that I did not realize that the monster truck served as a Chekhov's gun. Now, I probably would have realized it back when I originally watched this movie, because monster trucks was so big when I was growing up. They were so big. It's the first commercial where I ever heard Sunday at the Baltimore Arena, monster trucks featuring Gravedigger and Bigfoot. Oh man,
I've seen
tickets paid for the whole seat, but you're only gonna need the edge.
No, that is that energy. I've only gone to one monster truck show, and yeah, I just remember the kid behind me just being like, "Mom, it's Gravedigger," with such a huge heart, and it was just. What a fun time. I mean, all the motocross bikes zipping around and stuff like, are they happening? There was one happening probably tomorrow. Go tomorrow, everyone.
Right. I've never been, but I remember growing up, I always wanted to go to it. The thing about it is that, so the monster truck is a Chekhov's gun. I mean, it's bad enough that it is the same model as one of the most famous monster trucks in history, but it's also the same color. So, they're so casually riding around in a truck that could not possibly stay in its own lane, and then and then there's that part where it runs over the cars at the dealership. It's like, oh, that's why this truck is in this movie, because we have to see the truck run over the cars, and it was absolutely glorious. And that was beautiful.
I also love that part because the only people who are upset are the people from the bar. Everyone else in town is understandably like, whoa, monster truck, yeah. Because if I saw that, I would be like, hell yeah, monster truck, run over those cars. I don't care about like this man's business. Woo.
Also, who is around you just being like, hope you got insurance? I don't get those people out of your life. Anybody who would say that to you in such a tragic moment.
that was a callback to the previous line. Remember that the bar got blown up.
Yeah.
And they was trying to convince the bar owner to stay, right? Come on, stay in town. You can rebuild. You got insurance, don't you? Why don't you stay and rebuild? And bars like Red is like, I got to get out of here. This is horrible. Like, this guy is just going to keep destroying my businesses. I have to get out. And so they're trying to convince him to stay. So that was a callback. And then
you don't do a callback from immediate call. Like if I were to like, you know what, let me leave the room and then come right back. And you're like, what a great callback, Kai.
right. But it was still used well. It's like he's teasing them. It's like, so don't you got insurance, asshole? He's calling him an asshole without saying the word asshole.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very little kid type of. Don't you have insurance?
Right.
Oh my god.
Right.
I hope
Absolutely. So. Anything else that you guys can think of?
Jim, you got another? Because as far as like stuff that like really like stuck out to me, one, it's just like how much he really, like, for a guy that's been told that he like does throat pulling, like he's just ready to do it all the time. Yeah, the little hand claw thing ready to go.
Yeah. Well, see, the first time he couldn't help himself. It's like the dude tried to shoot him, and it's like an automatic reaction. And they talk about it.
What do you mean automatic reaction? That's not my first thought. Is I'm going to rip this guy's throat out.
Yeah, I know how to do this. Here we go.
Right. It was like muscle memory. It's like he didn't. It was like he had to do it because the dude he took a shot at him. So I guess you have to die, right? So
classic.
The line from Sam Elliott earlier in the movie.
Yeah. And so, I love that line. That's another line that I actually love. He's like, a guy points a gun at you. You got two choices. You can die or you can kill the motherfucker. And I was like, oh, yeah. Beautifully delivered by Sam Elliott. He couldn't have said it better than Samuel L. Jackson.
Well, when I'm getting blackout drunk when I come visit, Sam Elliott better not be there to ramp me up.
So they talk about that the murder and everything was not even really a murder. It was a homicide in self-defense. And like said, the guy tried and the judge understood, so he was acquitted of the crime and everything. So it's not like he killed somebody and got off, or he killed somebody and never got caught or whatever. He killed somebody, he was arrested, he went to trial, he was acquitted, and then he was able to carry on with his life because it was self-defense. Unlike that bogus trial in Con Air, where which always makes me angry, that this soldier killed a couple of guys in self-defense. They had broken bottles and they were trying to kill him and rape and kill his girlfriend. And he defended the both of them, killing the attackers in the process. But the judge was like, well, your skills make you a lethal weapon, so we have to put you in jail. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. What kind of nonsense is this?
Yeah.
So I feel like Roadhouse kind of rectifies that for me. A
movie that came out before Con Air.
Right. So yeah, Con Air didn't learn from history.
No. There was one more thing that I really did like, which is right before Patrick Swayze sticks the knife in the gas to make the car come at the people, and they just start shooting at it randomly. They're just kind of waiting around, and I love that they're waiting around with guns and they're just chatting casually.
Yeah,
they're just like, "Hey, you see the head on that girl? Oh boy, she could really give me head." I don't know. I don't remember the line. I don't know how to talk like a man either. But I really love that. I just love them standing around, just like, so you see the weather lately? Oh, car coming! Bang, 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 bang!
Right.
That was a really funny inclusion in for me.
So I want to put out one of Zachary's favorite parts. So we kind of went over the gist of the movie. The guy, he's hired to straighten out this bar. He's referred to as a cooler. He's basically the boss of the bouncers. And then hijinks. The actor that plays Ben Gazzara, he's fabulous. He's just because he's so evil. He plays it so casually and so well. It's like he does the thing where you hate the bad guy and you can't wait for him to can't wait for him to get his comeuppance. So that was all really.
He seems like a James Bond villain. Is he a James Bond villain at any point? Because he could do it.
Basically, like he blows up the farmer's house. Like he gets mad because his ex. It's weird because the relationship between his ex and him and his ex is weird, because at first I thought they said that was his niece, and then it comes out maybe that they used to be married. I don't know. It's not straightened out. But anyway, he full on sees his ex-girlfriend having sex with Dalton. So it's like they have these huge windows where in his room where anybody could just walk in, which is another one of my favorite points. Like the girl from the bar, she just got, like in the beginning of the movie, she just kind of walks upstairs with breakfast. For why? I guess she's hitting on him, and that's her version of hitting on him, because it doesn't make any sense. And she's supposed to be offering some warning or whatever. That's not my thought, to just go over some stranger's house to start, giving breakfast. And then
I found eggs in your fridge.
Right. So so this conflict between like the rich bully who wants to own all the businesses and has just basically just being bad just to be bad. And then near the end of the movie, he basically he sends his crew to the bar and to rough everybody up, and then they eventually kill the mentor and Sam Elliott. So this riles up Dalton, and Dalton has to get righteous vengeance. So he goes over and he basically takes out everybody, like the whole crew, ninja style. And then one guy, the polar bear fell on top of him.
Classic comedy. Yeah.
He starts shooting at the polar bears, like, that it's stuffed, right? You could just run away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so like near the end of the movie, Dalton has a fight with Brad, and Brad gets shot off, which is interesting because you can't have Brad fighting like a full powered Dalton. Like Dalton and at his healthiest would totally destroy Brad. So Brad shoots him. Now Dalton is weakened, but still manages to win the fight. So
I mean, I believe it a little bit, because as far as I understand it, Patrick Swayze actually physically was getting like less able to have action scenes. So I don't know when they shot this scene,
right?
But I mean, like, yeah, it sounded like it was a pretty level playing field at a certain point.
Let's just say that he had been cast. They wanted him to do Tango and Cass after this movie, but he was so beat up after this movie. He was like, nope. So,
oh yeah, which totally worked out for him.
So,
Tango Cash, not a great movie.
So I'm saying all this leading up to one of Zach's favorite parts. Zach liked all the things that we like, but the three men. So remember, Brad is trying to basically take over everybody's businesses. He's basically racketeering all the businesses. So the three other business leaders come, and they're mad that Dalton is blowing up their businesses. So
why?
Just when Brad gets up, because it's like when when Dalton defeats Brad the first time, it's like a fake out, right? So,
Mhm.
he turns his back, Brad starts to get up and points a gun at him. And then he's shot, and the 3 other business leaders show up, and they all take turns shooting the shit out of Brad.
Yeah, with
the
like a shotgun. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Red comes and collects all the shotguns, dispose of them.
Yeah.
And then
So
the police
quickly.
comes. And then the police come. It's like, asking everybody else, you seen anything? It's like, no. And this is what Zach loved. Like, no, I didn't see anything. No, I didn't see anything.
Were the
And
police outside? Because they were like, and we're in the building.
right. I guess they were on their way the whole time. I don't know.
I guess.
They just arrived.
Yeah.
Right. I think Brad had probably called them when things started to go south.
Maybe,
Because
yeah,
he
that makes
controlled the
sense.
police force.
Yeah.
And then the guns are disposed of. The police show up. Do you see anything? And everybody like, nope. And they asked Guy who was had the polar bear fall on him, and he said, and here's the crux of the scene. He looks at they're fighting in this trophy room with stuffed animals. What do you call them? Not stuffed animals. They're dead animals. That trophy animals. What do you call those?
They're
Taxidermied?
taxidermy.
Thank you.
I got you, no
Taxidermy
worries.
animals.
Yeah.
So the taxidermy trophy room. And so he looks up, he sees these 3 monkeys. And I asked Zach if he knew what that represented. He's
The
like,
monkeys.
yeah. Right. They're posed in see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Yes.
Oh,
He looked- that's-
hi.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This movie was 2 hours.
Right.
I was
So
gonna say it's not a subtle reference at all.
right. It's not particularly subtle, but I laughed out loud when I saw that because they were making reference to the 3 monkeys. And then he said, polar bear fell on me.
Yeah, which really funny. You do see him in the background of that scene where he's like, they're like all about to shoot the bad guy, and he like gets up and looks around, and you can only see it in the background. I was like, oh, that's clever. He's gonna the movie's gonna have him like come up and maybe shoot one of the guys, and then he doesn't do anything, and I was like, oh, okay, so they're not going to do anything with that. And then it was to show that he's also going to say nothing. I was like, oh, they did do a good thing.
Right,
Great job,
right.
movie.
I felt like all of a sudden I was like, are they going to invite him into the good guy crew? Because like it was a real quick transition of being like, all right, really? All right. Well, now everyone else is dead. I was kind of just a lackey henchman anyways. You guys
right.
come over. Let's hash this out over a beer. I'm on team good guy.
Let's
Right,
be honest. Tinker sways with a win. He's just like, oh, you guys. He's like a dog. He's just like, oh, you guys feed me. Oh, I guess I'm your friend now.
He was totally done. It's like, nope, I'm out of this. The boss is dead. What do I got to defend? It's like I got nowhere else to go. It's like I'm out of this joint. It's like, yeah, y'all do what y'all want. I quit.
I can see why this is a cult classic, and I look at that moment. I'm like, okay, that's cute. Like that's a moment that was like. They didn't know in advance. They're like, people are going to watch this movie 30 years from now, and that's the thing they're going to love.
Right. And all the little jokes that I'm slobbering. All the little jokes that in this movie that they had. That a lot of those jokes worked, and I really appreciated those little. Those it was some of that was smart writing. I really appreciate that. I was like, somebody had said something about somebody's dick, and it's like, his dick fell off. I don't know. I forgot the joke, but it was funny.
Like I said, I feel like someone came in and punched up the script and made it actually good.
Yeah. You got to have that. So if there's nothing else, we're going to go on to our next segment. And that will be the trivia provided by IMDb. So
thank you, IMDb.
Yeah, IMDb is awesome. One-stop shop for finding trivia. That's what I really like. So I'll start us off with Dalton's rules of bouncing goes as follows. 1, never underestimate. I can't get the words out. Never underestimate your opponent. Expect the unexpected. 2, take it outside. Never start anything inside the bar unless it's absolutely necessary. And 3, be nice. That's great.
I will say number 1 feels like a 1.5, like, because it is like I understand that don't underestimate your opponent and expect the unexpected are basically the same thing. Like he just said it twice.
Yeah. Right.
But I was like, when in the movie it jarred me, I was like, that's 2 points.
Right. Not only that, but it's really hard. People say that all the time, but if it's unexpected, then you're not going. You can't expect the unexpected. That's like expecting a meteor to hit your car. It's like, no, when you get up and go to work, you're not expecting a meteor to hit your car. It's like when I drive, when I commute and I run into traffic, it's unexpected to me. I expect a smooth drive to work. I don't expect traffic. No. It gets me every time.
Yeah. I get the feeling it's like they'd be getting into a bar fight and then like the guy would turn into a vampire and then Dalton would be like, I expected this to happen.
Right.
Honestly, it sounds like Family Guy when they did that like episode in referencing to Roadhouse. They really missed that opportunity to do that.
Right.
That would have been great. The other, next point.
Go ahead.
We're going to hop over to the fact that due to a knee injury that he sustained during the film, Mr. Swayze, what I call him that, turned down the roles for Gabriel Cash in Tango and Cash, as we said, classic 1989 film. And Mike Harrigan would have been his role in Predator 2. But he chose to make the best choice of his life, which was to go hang out with Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost, and his follow-up or as the follow-up instead. And as it was like less physically, like, kind of strenuous on his body. That was kind of the primary reason. The knee injury ended up being a blessing in disguise in that sense, because Ghost ended up being a pretty much huge success and received critical acclaim. Tango and Cash, on the other hand, big old flop, as was unfortunately Roadhouse.
Right. And do you remember who ended up playing the lead? Oh, you covered Predator 2 already, didn't you? Or the Predator movies?
No, we haven't done Predator yet.
We haven't done Predator.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
So when you guys do Predator, are you going to do like every Predator that has ever been? Or are you just going to stick to the the
lions, tigers, bears? We're going through every single one.
Everyone that has the word Predator in it.
Lion. Okay. That movie about the Indian kid who gets lost in India and he has to find his mom. You guys remember that movie? Nominated for Best Picture in 2017. Come on.
Yeah, we all know.
Yeah. So Mike Harrigan was played by Danny Glover. Took me a second to remember.
Oh,
that.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I've seen Predator 2 and Predator 2, because they had Danny Glover in it, just essentially became Lethal Weapon because he has this attitude like, I'm too old for this shit. Yeah.
I love that movie though. I haven't seen it in decades, but I do remember loving Predator 2.
I also remember loving Predator 2. I saw when I was like 12 and I was just like, this is awesome.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh man, there's an alien skull. That's sick as hell. Yeah.
Right.
That blew my mind as a child.
Right.
It's great. But let's go on to the next thing. Marshall R. Teague, who played Jimmy, initially didn't get along with Patrick Swayze, but while filming their big fight, both men quickly realized they shared a dedication to realistic stunts, which improved their relationship. They developed so much mutual trust that they improvised a lot and allowed each other to throw real punches and kicks. So when Jimmy swings a log at Dalton, Teague mistakenly thought it was a breakable prop. And by the end, Swayze was covered in bruises and had 2 broken ribs and a busted up knee.
God.
Oh, God.
And here's the thing. He continued the fighting. It's not like he stopped. It's like, oh, stop. You hit me with a real log. No, they continued. And he finished the scene. And I'll mention this later on, but there's a reason why Marshall had such why probably he and Patrick didn't get along, and why he I guess he felt that he was more macho than Patrick Swayze, and he was going to prove it to Patrick. So we'll get into that later on.
Oh, boy.
But meanwhile, Patrick Swayze's fame caused problems during filming. A pickup truck containing a group of middle-aged blonde women attempted to drive right up to the star's trailer to meet the actor. During the big fight by the river, a raft of Swayze-loving ladies sailed by. A female extra playing a waitress was too busy staring at Swayze to watch where she was going and tripped, spilled all of her drinks on the other extras.
Definitely, because I was reading through the trivia last night. Definitely my favorite bit of trivia.
Right.
It's so funny. That there was a time in Patrick Swayze's life where he just could not go anywhere without a bunch of middle-aged women trying to be like, oh, will you dirty dance with me? Like,
right.
I love exactly that.
Right.
Look, I mean, I'm looking at this movie and I'm being like, thank God I watched this movie where I'm openly a queer person, I would have been like, no, Dad. Oh, he's so manly and beefy. I'm sorry. Wait, what? I said manly. What a hunky guy. But yeah, no, is it? I was thinking about this. Is it rude to be attracted to dead people? Is that mean?
I guess not. I like Marilyn Monroe, and she's
all right,
dead.
Cool. Then we're fine. I want to be clear. I'm attracted to a live Patrick Swayze, but like,
but Kai is also. But I just to also correct Kai. Kai is also only attracted to people who are now dead.
Right.
That's my thing.
And back in their younger years, because he did. I'm not saying that he aged poorly, but he did not maintain that same manly physique that you enjoy. Yeah. That later in his life. And I just remembered that I responded to a tweet that you did. I don't know, you probably did it a while ago, but I just saw it when you were talking about how bros say no homo. Oh
my God, yeah.
This is one of those interests. They be like, yo, son, let me tell you something, no homo, but Patrick Swayze's built, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got a pin that says no hetero because I don't want that in my life. You keep that away from me. I do that all the time where I'm just like, look, man, I'm going to be honest with you. Like right now, I'm super into you and I want to get naked with you. Like no hetero. I'm being straight up with you right now. I want to do gay stuff.
I'm pretty sure we was talking about Sunshine, the character that Sunshine's playing, how they're staring at Patrick Swayze, right? Yeah. So I'm pretty sure in his mind he was like, "Yo, no homo, son," but if he was into it, if he was down, I'm down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Look, I think I was a Lyft driver for a few years, and I can't tell you how many people, once they found out that I was a queer person, did a little bit of there was this one time when I was at camp, and I'm just like, I'm a confessional on wheels to most people, and I'm gonna tell y'all, anybody who's out here who may feel the same, I'm going to do the same thing I do to them, which is everyone's a little bit gay. Like, I didn't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Get out there and be somebody. I don't know. Here's a 555 number. Call it and have a good time.
Right.
Good Buick.
Yeah, I guess this bit of trivia, I guess it's trying to convey that everybody wanted to fuck Patrick Swayze in everybody. So I think that's the lesson that we're learning right now. So
very much so.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about Mr. Swayze?
Sure. So, I mean, as we've kind of mentioned a little bit here, he was pretty much Patrick Swayze was just not doing well to the point where he actually admitted that he wasn't quite sure he was going to live through the making of the movie. Right. The question is this like a sentence over his shoulder, no big deal, kind of just came out, or is this like I mean, based off of what I hear, that seems like a genuine statement.
I don't know if any actor genuinely thinks that they're going to die during the making of the film, but he was like, man, this is tough.
Yeah.
It had to be a tough movie. He's around explosions a lot that he has to run toward instead of away from.
Right.
And then also all the stunts as well. But speaking of the stunts, Patrick Swayze was trained by kickboxing champion and action star Benny. Oh, geez.
Got it.
There you go. Work it out. I think you got it. Erquidez. I think that's the way you say it.
Who also had a small cameo in the film.
Right. Yeah, I
don't
know.
Is he in anything? Is he like one of those famous trainers from Hollywood?
He's not Billy Blanks. He's probably a famous trainer, but I don't think he's like Billy Blanks where he has like videos and whatnot. So I remember Billy Blanks was in like one scene in one movie, and that's because he was famous for training stars. But as far as Benny, I don't know. I don't remember seeing him in the movie. I don't know what it looks like.
No clue.
No, I've looked up a picture and I don't remember him being in the movie. So
right,
it's nothing. Well, he's just a guy. For us.
So going back to real actors, Annette Bening was originally cast as Doc. She was replaced by Kelly Lynch, who was under contract to United Artists. Lynch claims that Bening was fired due to a lack of chemistry with Patrick Swayze. That might be it, I guess.
Chemistry is important. That's how we got going back. That's how we got Indiana Jones, right? I mean, at one point it was going to be Tom Selleck. Sometimes you just got to make sure the energy is right.
Right. It was supposed to be Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is that speaking of chemistry, one of the early movies that we did was Commando. and that's with Arnold Schwarzenegger. His co-star in the movie was Ray Dong-song, and they were supposed to have a sex scene in that movie because it's the 80s and sex scenes are obligatory.
Yeah.
However, and they actually did the scene, but the scene was so bad because they didn't look believable, so they decided, all right, we're not doing it because it didn't look real, right?
I mean, I can't even imagine what sex with Arnold Schwarzenegger looks like, so I don't think it's believable no matter what.
Well, it's probably all Arnold because there's one particular thing about bodybuilders is that they're not graceful. So when he filmed The Running Man, it wasn't him running. Like anytime you saw his character running, it was actually a stunt double because bodybuilders do not look graceful when they run.
No.
All the muscles get in the way.
Yikes.
All right, you can go ahead. I'm holding you up.
No, you're good. So the film, as we mentioned a little bit here, it did kind of have a little bit of a reference back to Dirty Dancing, at which point Patrick Swayze says, "The dancing's over. Now it gets dirty."
Right.
Well,
not quite how he said it, but
that was the tagline for the movie.
Right. Forgive me. Thank you.
Yeah. Which is very silly that they were like, that was a big movie. Remember that? We're going to make another movie.
No, but
absolutely.
I mean, like, that's how you get the cash rolling in. You just go, hey, remember that? This is what this. I mean, we do it still today. You're like, from the guys who brought you Knocked Up. And you're like,
right.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just back then they were like, hey, Dirty Dancing, right?
Yeah.
remember Baby being in a corner?
Yeah, and here's the
new
thing.
movie.
Here's the thing: when they say from the guys that brought you, it only really means anything if it's actually the director, right? So it's from the director that brought you Jurassic Park. Here's Schindler's List. But if you're talking about like the producer from the producers that brought you the Three Ninjas Third Strike, you're like, we don't care who the producers were. We want to know they're just paying for the movie. We want to know who directed the movie, right? We want to know who wrote the story, right? So if it's the writer or the director, all right, fine. But I don't want to care. I don't care who the producers are of a movie.
Yeah,
with bringing back that Farmer Elliott guy, the guy from Tremors.
Right.
He was the key grip on Repo Man.
Right. And
now
I know
he's the best boy.
Right. All right.
Mine's next. Sorry. So when Doc goes to Dalton's bedroom, the classic song "These Arms of Mine" by Otis Redding plays on the radio. The song is featured in the love scene of both this movie and Dirty Dancing, which Patrick Swayze is also famous for.
No
way.
Yeah, that's a very IMDb trivia, by the way. That's
right.
A very IMDb thing to do is this movie is kind of similar to another movie, which is also has this person in it, and that's it. It's
right. Well, I think that they did
not really a fact.
They did that in this movie on purpose, right? Because they're constantly trying to remind people that Patrick Swayze was in Dirty Dancing, because a lot of this as like a lot of the sound effects is after the fact. I forgot the official language for it. So they basically dubbed the radio, and it was like, well, what song do we use? Let's use Dirty Dancing song. Let's use that one.
You know what? They missed out on an opportunity to be like, stop, drop, shut him down. Would have been an interesting scene, in my opinion.
Right.
Especially since the scene that we're talking about is when they're like looking longingly at the stars.
Right.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's funny how that scene begins, right? So he's leading her up to his room. He turns on the radio. They start slow dancing to Gangsta's Paradise, and then it's like they're trying to dance, and she's trembling. It's like, I didn't come here to dance. I came to fuck. Come on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Seriously. Oh, that scene though.
She was way too ready, right? She wasn't like coy or anything. She was fairly aggressive. I'd say fairly aggressive.
I don't know if it's down the line and I'm just not seeing it, but just in case we're going to miss it, is the Bill Murray fact about this in here?
No,
Oh,
I
you know what I'm
didn't
talking
put it in
about?
there. Yeah.
So is it okay if I bring it up real quick?
Yeah,
I just
go
love
ahead.
that Bill Murray. So what? Forgive me the actor's name. Kelly Lynch is Bill Murray has a bit back and forth with her husband, just kind of giving him kind of just reaching out to him whenever Bill like sees Kelly Lynch having like a sex scene in a movie or from the 80s, whatever, and just kind of be like, hey, remember when your wife had these really dumb sex scenes? So like that's their little bit back and forth, but also this is a ridiculous sex scene. Like, honestly, unfairly giving anybody, just making them embarrassed that they just can't lift their significant other in the middle of a room while having intercourse.
No, wait, you're forgetting the most ridiculous part is how much they're shaking.
Oh, yeah.
The whole thing is just them being like,
yeah, especially Kelly Lynch. She's really trembling. Yeah, it looks ridiculous, but I have seen such things, so I'm not going to fault it too much.
Real.
I accidentally highlighted two of these trivia things. So if you can read the second one, that'd be cool.
Yeah, sure. So when Dalton, played by Patrick Swayze, first shows up at the Double Deuces. I know that you copied these.
Right. This is all copy paste.
But it's very funny that that we keep saying over and over. Did you know Dalton was played by Patrick Swayze?
Right.
But when he first shows up at the Double Deuce, he stands at the end of the bar next to a post. On the post is carved Buddy's Corner. Buddy was Patrick Swayze's nickname. Interesting.
I was like, oh, he had a nickname.
That is a nickname.
Know that.
That's a horrible nickname, though, because as a food server for 15 years, anybody who calls me Buddy, I want to stab them in the chest or rip their throat out.
both of which happened in this movie.
Yes, they did.
So the band playing at the start of the movie is Cruzados. After the band disbanded, lead singer Tito let me get this right. Lariva. Oh, got it.
Oh, yeah.
Tito Lariva formed the band Tito and Tarantula, which is the band that played at the Titty Twister from Dusk Till Dawn from 1996. Do you guys see that movie?
I have seen that movie. It's a movie that is like a Quentin Tarantino type heist movie, and then out of nowhere, vampires show up, and that's just what the rest of the movie is about.
Yeah, he wrote the movie and it was directed by Robert Rodriguez, and it's like the movie kind of splits in half, right? So it's like at the exact halfway point is when it becomes a vampire movie. So the band that plays at the Titty Twister is Tito Lariva's band. So that the main guy who's playing the guitar that's basically legs and somebody's torso. Yeah, that is Tito.
I saw From Dusk Till Dawn, had no idea what I was getting into. It's just like a friend had been like, you got to watch this movie. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was watching, I was just like, oh, this is an interesting movie. And then the vampires show up and I was just like, does he know that this is happening? Like,
right.
No, what you want halfway through a movie is like, I think I just want to watch another movie. Oh, wait, it's perfect. It's already happening.
It's two movies stitched together.
Yeah,
that is exactly right. And that's amazing about that they were bold enough to do something so crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
So
we will bring it back with a little bit of Sam Elliott here. According to him, all of the actors did their own stunts. They were trained by Benny the Jet, Urquidez, that's one to go with, holder of 9 black belts in 9 different disciplines. Now, Urquidez believed so much in Patrick Swayze's abilities that he actually suggested he take up a lifestyle as a competitive kickboxer.
Yeah, he was apparently that good. What's interesting about, we were talking about cut and paste earlier. I realized that some of this is poorly written because it says that he's a holder of 9 black belts in 9 different disciplines. Like, yes, of course they're 9 different disciplines. You can't have 2 black belts in one discipline. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you this. I've taken a 401 improv class at 2 different theaters. At a certain point, it's not impressive. I'm just going to keep doing it. You know what I mean?
You're good.
Yeah.
Right.
Although, to be fair, a discipline for martial arts is much different than improv.
Wow. That's fair. No, what's 6 of another? I don't know the expression. What is it, Jim?
Oh, don't make me do this.
Nope. Come on.
6 of one or a half dozen of another.
Thank you.
I knew that's where you were going.
It's a phrase I never say because I never want to. I never want to mess it up.
All right. So Jim, you tell us about the monster truck that we talked about earlier,
which I'm very happy to. The monster truck that drives through the Ford dealership is Bigfoot 7, driven by the former vice president of Bigfoot 4x4, Jim Kramer. It cost $500,000 and was done in one take. Bigfoot had to be repainted after the scene and went on to crush cars throughout the country and the world.
Yeah. So yeah, Bigfoot. It still had the same Bigfoot colors, and as soon as I saw Bigfoot, a theme of a cartoon had run through my head, and the song goes as thus: Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines, they're big, bad, dirty, and like, don't ask me why I remember that song. Is a thing that floats in my head from time to time. It's like a small sense of thrill came through my. I was like, oh my god, that's Bigfoot. And well, first I was like, that looks just like Bigfoot, and then when I read the trilogy, I was like, yes, it was Bigfoot, and just a huge wave of nostalgia had washed.
No, for sure. There's these little moments that happen like that, where it's just like, when you're like tasting, someone gives you like here, try this candy, and you're like, this reminds me of a childhood thing from something else. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you get that flavor and you're like, so those happen all the time. And it's just like that pure joy of like, and now I'm back in this year.
Right.
It's so good to connect with that.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. So Patrick Swayze wrote one song, Cliff's Edge, and sang two for the movie soundtrack. That one and Raising Heaven in Hell Tonight. So yeah, I've got to check those. I got to find the soundtrack and check those songs out. So yeah, that's what I had alluded to earlier. So yeah, nice. Patrick Swayze is multi-talented.
So this, yes, very much so. He's also very good at, I can't say it. Never mind. Can I
move on?
Let's just say that Patrick Swayze and Jim had a previous relationship before Jim became an improviser, as I alluded to earlier. And Patrick Swayze totally died of other causes. Anyways, Sam Elliott claimed that this is for what he's recognized the most, which blows my brain away. Ironically, he almost turned it down because he thought it was too similar to his role in The Mask.
No,
well, that's Mask, which is it?
Oh,
Mask
not The
about...
Mask. Mask.
No, yeah,
yeah.
Is it Mask, the movie about the guy who was born disfigured and his and he has to he's dating a blind girl?
I don't remember who he's dating, but yeah, that is the movie. It also starred Cher. So he played a kid with a very rare disease that disfigured his head, and I remember seeing that movie, and it's one of those movies that were so good and so hard hitting that I don't know if I can watch it again, but it definitely fits the bill for this podcast. It's like there's one of the two movies. The other movie is like, no, not a Raisin Inside. Hold on, what was that? Oh, The Color Purple. So The Color Purple hits it hits a little hard. So I don't know. I'm in a constant debate in my head whether I should put that on this, because I haven't seen that movie since I first saw it, and I didn't even see it in theaters. I saw it on video cassette. And man, that hits you in the face.
That's a very fair. Yeah, the Color Purple is very similar to like Schindler's List, where you're just like, oh man, that's just like, it's a huge bummer because it's like, this is real things that happen in history, and like, oh god, it hits you so hard, and you're just like,
right.
Well, I experienced that, and I'm very glad I experienced it, but I don't want to experience it again.
Right, absolutely. So you can go ahead and oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? Oh, you're all right, cool. I lost my place. Me. My bad. Yeah,
so did I. That's me. Marshall Teague told a story Marshall Teague told a story that he took his mother to the premiere of the movie. When the fight against Dalton happens and he says the line, "I used to fuck guys like you in prison," his mother jumped up and proudly shouted, "That's my boy."
I imagine it was more like, "That's my boy," right?
Yeah. I also like, I don't know. I like to imagine she was like, "That's my boy." Like she just now recognized him.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, this is your movie. Yeah.
Oh, that's why you brought me here. You're in this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. After I'm sorry, I'm collecting myself. That was super funny. After the 5-day long shoot fighting Marshall R. Teague, Patrick Swayze needed 25 ounces of fluid drained from his left knee. He apparently had been suffering through knee problems before, needing a similar procedure during the production on Dirty Dancing, which similarly has a lot to do with your knees. So it's that is a trip. It's a trial to be healthy.
That is one of the tough things about knees is if you injure your knee, you basically just don't have a good knee anymore.
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
We had spoken about Hulk Hogan earlier. I don't know if we had started recording for when we were talking about Hogan, but there are two things about Hogan. One, he had his own monster truck, and two, he also had knee problems. So he had went to surgery for his knee, basically because it was giving him pain. This is like in the middle of his wrestling career, and so the doc, after working on one knee, he asked how Hogan felt about his other knee, and then Hogan's like, "Oh, it's great. It's I don't have any problem with it at all." And the doc looked at him and was like, "Yeah, because it's worse than the knee that I just worked on." It was like, so knees are funny, and I found that fascinating.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, there was a joke that went around about how if you don't exercise, your knees will be shot because you didn't exercise enough. And if you exercise it a ton, your knees will go because you overworked your knees. And if you exercise a little bit, your knees will wear down over time. So your knees are going to be shot. So no matter what, everyone's knees are going to be shot at some point.
Right. Yeah. We're just poorly designed animals. That's basically where we stand at this point.
We shouldn't be standing upright.
Right. Yeah.
We should be going back.
I think what I'm going to do is buy a recliner and just getting up. That's my level of knee, like back and forth. Like that's my exercise for it.
You mean like that recliner that I had that would like push you up because I took it from my like elderly aunt and uncle.
Yeah, what you want it to be is catapulted forward every single time you get out of a chair.
Mm-hmm. what I like recliners in movie theaters. Those are my favorite recliners.
Oh yes.
So there are two primary theaters that we go to. One is it seems like all of the theaters have reclining seats, and then the other most of the theaters have reclining seats except for the IMAX, and tend to go to the IMAX theater, and I have to like sit upright. So yesterday we went and we saw The Batman, and I was like, well, this is a 3-hour movie, so I want to be in a recliner. So I went to the theater that I knew all the theaters had recliners, and it was a good time, except that I had to use the bathroom. That is not a good time when you have to use the bathroom in hour 2 of a 3-hour movie. That was not a good time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've been fortunate to go to a place called Chiggy's back in the New Hampshire. That it's like they have like it's also restaurant, so they have tables, so it's a little bit awkward because they come up to you and they're like, "Hey, is it okay that your chicken nuggets are going to take another 5 minutes?" And you're like, "I'm watching Spider-Man, leave me alone." But also, yeah, that's fine, and I want barbecue sauce. But they also have like those just like leather chairs that like look like they belonged in vehicles, but with the reclining aspect, and that's where it's at. Like you could do a full recline, take a nap, and be like, "Take my money, I don't care."
Right. I went to one theater like that, and that was a heavenly experience. It was absolutely awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, recommend anybody who can just sit in a car seat and get chicky nuggies. I'll bring us on to our next one here, which is
I think we're
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you're fine.
I am. My apologies. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. After the 5-day long shoot. Oh wait, no, we just talked about this. Never mind. Go ahead.
Just did this one.
It's cool. I'm stupid. Go ahead.
Nice to meet you, stupid. The oldest joke ever.
Oh, jeez.
Right? Hey, look, I'm channeling my inner dad, which is, nope, we're not going to go down that road. So an off-Broadway production of this film was actually produced in 2003. It had the peculiarly excessive long title of Roadhouse, the stage version of the cinema classic that starred Patrick Swayze, except this one stars Tamek from the 80s cult classic The Last Dragon, excuse me, because that's the last one, wearing a blonde mullet wig. And then after this, I guess they said, hey, this didn't work, so let's make a straight to DVD movie in 2006.
Yes. Oh, did they make a movie out of this?
They did. Yeah.
It was by the same. It was by the same writer.
Oh,
but not the. It had the same man writer. I should say.
When I found out that it was a sequel, I was like, I shouldn't tell Jim because then we had to put it on the list, and we might have to talk about this.
It's only one. It's only one movie.
Okay.
So did it also star Ty Mark?
Oh, I can't remember who it starred. Some random nobody, and then Gary Busey's kid was in it.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys seen The Last Dragon, but it is a Barry Gordy film. As a lot of times it's referred to as Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon, and it starred a man that was in his very first film. His name is Ty Mark. Don't know where that name comes from or where it's gone since. He's in exceptionally good shape. It's basically I had talked about this movie earlier as being having a lot of social appropriation or racial cultural appropriation.
Right.
So in the movie, the main actor is a martial arts student, and he wants to attain the highest level of martial arts. But his teacher's Asian, and he's his teacher's only student. He wants to he doesn't want to just learn martial art. He wants to be Asian almost. So he wears Asian clothing. He kind of speaks with an Asian accent. He goes full in on Asian culture. He eats with chopsticks. He's like full in on the Asian culture, and in a way, and so in some ways, a lot of people point to that and say that's cultural appropriation. But if you think about it, if this is a kid who's training to be a martial artist from the same guy from a very young age, then he's just what you call it? I forgot the words that I wanted to use. But he's just imitating his hero. Like his teacher is his hero. Bruce Lee is his hero. He's just imitating his hero, not trying to appropriate their culture. But then later on in the movie, there are 3 Asian guys, and they're trying to be black because they live in New York City, right? So they use African American vernacular when they talk. So
boy,
right. To me,
everybody's trying to be everybody else. Oh no.
To me, well, see, but in this, like I said, some people would consider that cultural appropriation, but at the same time, they're living in New York City, and they're trying to what's the word when you're trying to be in the culture that you're in? It's I forgot. Anyway, they're
trying yourself in the culture.
Yeah,
immerse.
They're trying. They're you know how.
I use the same word to describe it.
I almost you're a different person when you work in an office setting than when you're at home, right?
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying.
Are you talking about code switching?
Something like code switching. So basically they're code switching to be in a culture that they're surrounded by, so that they're not pointed out or teased or what do you call it? Basically trying to disappear into the culture as much as they can. So that's that's why they act the way they act. But
I understand.
Yeah. There's a word for it. I can't think of it right now, but it's basically code switching.
I definitely am guilty of I hung out with enough of my friends from the UK. Next thing you know, I'm saying the word love. We kind of pick up on things when you kind of surround yourself by stuff a little bit.
Right.
So I think that's, I get that, but that sounds like it went a little bit more full throttle in this.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So, is this Jim with is the toss up?
Yes, it is me. It's a toss up. Who used more hairspray in the movie, Patrick Swayze or Kelly Lynch? Swayze joked, "That hair turned into the bane of my existence." I can imagine so, because when you watch Roadhouse, everyone goes, "Oh, that mullet."
Right. So, according to the director's commentary, some of the other sequences which got cut out because the movie was too long, a fight scene where Keith David, Ernie Bass, and the Double Deuce bartender is introduced, in which he arrives at the Double Deuce with his girlfriend, and he gets into a fight with some rednecks, and then Dalton hires him to work as a bartender. See, that sounds like a huge scene. So it's this huge scene with Keith David that was cut, and which is why his name is in the opening credit, but we don't see much of him. That would have been awesome, but I understand that some things have to go. And then there's also a lot more scenes between him and Dalton. A scene where the sheriff of the town is introduced, where he's also cut. Well, that was also cut. In the final showdown at Wesley's mansion, originally had Dalton knocking out all of Wesley's henchmen on screen, while in the final cut, he is shown just taking out the last henchman or the last 3. And I think that worked way better than what they originally planned.
Yeah. There's some things that's just like the timing of movies need to happen, where if you make something go on for too long, it's like, all right, we get it. Like,
right.
And you could just get the point across with the last three, and you're like, okay, perfect. This is what I want to
especially
say.
when they're wandering around and they see their comrades that have been knocked out, and so now they know they got a ninja in the apartment, and they got to figure out what's going down.
Yeah,
right.
When he throws that knife at that ex-bartender guy, whatever the heck his name was, it was very like, oh, okay, wow, you're back in the movie and you're dead. Wow, that was really fast.
Right.
Oops. Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay. So now we are at the point where Dalton is in a fight with Wade, or as we know him to be, oh wow, am I going to say this wrong? Sam Elliott. First meets him outside the back of the Double Deuce. Garrett greets Dalton and calls him mijo, which is just a contraction of the Spanish words mi hijo, which means my son.
Right. And that was basically establishing the relationship, even though they're friends and they've known each other for a long time, is establishing their relationship. And I really like that part about the movie.
I am Yoda, you are Luke, know your place.
Right.
You are my child.
Yes.
Right.
I am your dad. Call me as such. But Terry Funk came up with the idea for John Doe to call Patrick Swayze chicken dick, which there was a lot of really funny insults in this movie. Just silly things that they all called each other. Right. And I wish I could remember any of them other than
penis. His penis is afraid. Is that what that is? You just have your penis is a scaredy cat?
I like to imagine is his penis is a chicken.
That's better.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
He has to feed it grain every day. Also, John Doe's character's name is Pat McGurn, which was like a made-up name to me. Well, I know it's a made-up name because of the movie, but like, but Pat McGurn, it feels like an improv name someone came up with. Like, you're Pat McGurn.
Right. So the last bit of trivia that we have is the movie was inspired by a real life story where a local bad guy was killed in plain view. And nobody saw anything either, right? Nobody saw nothing.
Nope. There was a guy walking out of the building with an arm full of guns, but don't worry about it.
Right. But for real, it's like, I guess you've heard the old trope that when a woman is in trouble, she should yell fire instead of yelling help, because people will come to see who's calling about fire because they want to see a fire. And they don't want to help out if somebody needs help.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's so real. Yeah. Because people are so at our root, even in the scariest moments. Like heck, even this is a weird one. When you're driving, your instincts, no matter what, will always be to protect yourself. Your brain doesn't have the time to go, oh yeah, that person I love is on the other seat that will be impacted by the vehicle instead.
Now, I would counter that, because when I was growing up, and still maybe now, my mom's driving a car and there's like, she has to swerve or something. The first thing she would do is she would reach her arm over to the passenger seat as if her tiny arm could stop me from going through the windshield.
But it's like when you have a mattress on top of your car and you're like, that's a whole...
I've seen that so many times, right?
I've done it. I know my arm's not gonna do anything. I know I'm not strong.
Honestly,
that's not gonna do nothing.
I miss about Philadelphia is you would just be like, there would be a couch on top of a sedan, and you would just see like 3 dudes just sitting on it, like while they bring it to somewhere else.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we overestimate ourselves. We've already broken the second rule of Roadhouse, or is that the first rule? I can't remember, but we've already
expect the unexpected. So that's what we're saying.
Yeah, right. So now we're gonna roll over into our final segment. We're gonna find out what the critics thought of this movie.
Oh boy.
So on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it a 37%. The audience score was 66%.
Wow.
IMDb kind of agrees with the audience that, well, I don't know, it's 6.6 out of 10, so it's a little different. No, actually, it's about the same. It's percentage wise. Okay. Now to think about it,
the way they do their ratings is a little like weird, because like Rotten, I almost said Rotten Treasures. Rotten Tomatoes does.
You did the thing that I was doing.
Yeah,
but in my head.
Rotten Tomatoes does it where it's like, you gave it a somewhat positive review. That means it's 100% positive coming from you. Whereas like IMDb, it's like, that's like 6 out of 10. And they all go, okay, yeah, you gave it a 6 out of 10. And then they kind of weigh it. They actually have an equation that you can see on their website of how they do it. which is interesting. But please,
yeah, I noticed that IMDb tends to be a little bit lower than like the Rotten Tomatoes aggregated score, but I think it's because most people are afraid to give a movie a 10 out of 10. Like even if they really like it, they're going to give it like a 9 or something like that because they think that there's going to be a better movie coming along that's going to beat out that movie.
Yeah,
so I think
Not Roadhouse.
It also has to do with for an IMDb movie to get a 10 out of 10. That means 100% of people had to give it a 10 out of 10.
Right. So I'm gonna start us off. We're gonna talk about Joy Boyer from the Orlando Sentinel. And he wrote, but in the deep roadhouse country and the undefined mode crassly visible, there isn't a whiff of romance anywhere, any more than there is a single jot of common sense, which is, I don't know. I saw some romance in that movie. I mean, I think that Ernie was not Ernie, but the character that Sunshine played, he was really digging. He was really digging Dalton. I saw romance in his eyes, right?
Again, I wanted him to end up with the farmer.
Right.
I would have been fine with it.
Also, I think there's a legitimate chemistry between Dalton and Doc, so I'm not going to knock it for the romance.
Well, I mean,
and then
either that or in Tremors, at least, just being like Patrick Swayze's the significant other who's like upset about the character dying in the tower and be like, no,
right.
We were gonna go on a cruise.
And then Sean T. Collins from The Decider wrote, it isn't just so bad it's good. In its own way, it really is good. So I agree with Sean. It is one of those movies. And I mean, I liked it back then because I was immature and anything with guns, explosion, and boobies was thrilling and exciting, and I thoroughly loved it. But now I look back on it, not for the nostalgia of the movie itself, but for the nostalgia of when I was growing up watching movies like this. So it's hard for me to hate this movie, and I think Sean gets me.
I feel like this seems like a movie that if I saw it as a kid growing up and it was on TNT, just like middle of the day regularly, I would have been like, oh, this is like to my core of like a trusty film that I know I can just have in the background, pick it up where it's at and be like, oh, cool, more fighting.
Right.
Yeah. It's that kind of like you watch sometimes you just watch a movie, you just kind of shut off and go, cool, they're punching each other. And that's it. That's all you really need to see. And that's it's just entertainment.
Right.
I got a hard comment here from Dennis King of Tulsa World. It's pointless, mean-spirited, excessively violent, and perhaps, worst of all, just plain dumb.
Now, you could take that to be a bad review, but that's also how I felt about it, but in a good way.
Right.
Okay.
Like if you just replaced worst of all with best of all, I think that would be exactly how I felt about this movie.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah, it's a dumb movie. Knows it's dumb. Boom.
Right. Absolutely. It knows what it is, and it's just a fun movie. Kai, you was going to say something about that?
Oh no, it's just like, I mean, I wow, just coming at the movie hot. I mean, I feel like just plain dumb was just a rough thing to throw on it, but whatever, Dennis King.
Right.
Hopefully Ryan Sirik had something nicer to say here. From the reader, watching Roadhouse isn't just a snort of nostalgia from a time when cocaine was more prevalent in bathrooms than hand sanitizer. It is a reminder of a whole genre of a film that just dried up. Now, before we get on here, Jim, now we're kind of going back and forth about like, you know, whether we hate the movie or whatever. And I kind of like said that like, I think this movie is like, or this genre is like a genre that hated itself and then just faded out. Like, or maybe it's just like, all of a sudden you're right. Like this just dropped off. And it's kind of like how music does that too. It just kind of faded out.
You had said it in a very interesting way, which I believe was it's a type of movie that faded itself out.
Yeah.
Like it naturally burnt itself out. Like it came in very explosive, and then everyone was like, "Whoa!" And then it's like, that's not gonna last forever, and it just kind of like faded away because that's the nature of the kind of movie that it is.
Yeah,
I think that another way of looking at it is that they just grew up, because like we're still seeing action movies, but now the action is more realistic. There's like you have a lot of the actors, they go through some form of training before they engage in the action, and then the stories are more mature. The relationships are more real and more relatable. The movie makes the movies nowadays, the action movies nowadays, they make a lot more sense. They try to ground it more in reality. Like these movies back then in the 1980s, these were the superhero movies of the day. Like Patrick Swayze wasn't just an actor, he was a superhero, and so was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis.
Treat him like that too. I mean, Dalton is essentially a superhero. He's a legend,
right?
You know, so,
right,
Mm-hmm.
right. So the movies, and so when he's talking about this particular genre as faded away, that's basically the oversized explosions, some of the dumber lines, and some of the over the top fight sequences, right? So I think that's the thing that's faded.
But the thing they shouldn't have made go away is just like chiseled mulleted men putting on blue jeans. Like, what happened?
Yeah. Well, you still got chiseled men in blue jeans. They're just not mulleted, and also they kind of got away from the obligatory sex scenes. Like never, like there was somebody that was complaining that superhero movies aren't sexy enough, where they're not. I think that's how you put it. It's like they're bereft of sexuality. I think that's kind of how they said it. And right, you don't see a lot of sex in superhero movies, right? You see allusions to it, but they don't actually have a sex scenes, and a lot of current action movies don't really have that.
Yeah,
they fixed it in The Boys because two superheroes just go to town on each other in the most aggressively violent way ever.
Well, they fixed it in The Boys, The Suicide Squad, and a few other. Have you seen Peacemaker?
I watched Peacemaker.
Yeah, full on sex scene in the first episode.
Yeah.
So, but it's like that's not why we went to see the movie.
Yeah. There's also kind of a thing where it's like the rise of like internet pornography has just made it so it's like, well, I don't need to watch like two people pretend to have sex. I can just actually watch it.
Absolutely.
And still dress as superheroes.
Right.
Yeah. And then
you just put it in a search.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's Calendar Man. He's back. It's my favorite scene, he said.
Yeah.
Right.
Then there's also the other thing of like they are starting to treat they're trying to start treat women like people, which is a very nice thing, and I'm a huge appreciative of. Whereas in the 80s, it was just kind of like, oh, that's his boobs.
Right.
That's her character.
Boobs 1, boobs 2, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so
right.
that's why she's here. And I'm very happy to see that we are like phasing out sex scenes, and a lot of it is for that reason too.
Right.
So, go ahead.
No, I was just saying you can go ahead and take the last couple.
Okay. So we have Chris Hicks from the Deseret News says, though it doesn't say so anywhere in the film, Roadhouse must be set on another planet where the inhabitants resemble humans. This can't be the world I live in. And then go ahead.
I would disagree. This is exactly the world we live in, especially today.
Oh yeah. No, for sure. Just because we're not reflecting it in media as much, which I'm appreciative of, because we don't want to reinforce men just grabbing women's buttocks when they're just trying to give you beer as a food server. But yeah, bars like this, they're still here. They're out here. And this behavior is not gone necessarily anywhere. It's just not as shouting into our news and our movies as much anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's more people going, maybe that's a bad thing that you're doing.
Yeah, right. And then there's more people just being like, I miss the good old days. And you're like, we know what you're saying, man.
Right.
Yeah.
We know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the last one was John Ferguson. John Ferguson from the Radio Times said, this gloriously brainless modern day Western is a treat from start to finish, and possibly the one and only time that a bouncer will ever get the full Hollywood hero treatment.
Yeah, I
agree. I'd agree with that.
I will say, reading through these, because you did a good job picking some negative ones and some good ones. I agree with most of them. It's a movie that like is hugely flawed. It dips at points where you're just like, oh geez, nobody talks like real people in it. Everyone's over the top and silly and ridiculous. And there's a lot of it that I love for that exact reason. And there's a
Right.
lot of it that I was just like, oh, come on, let's get through the movie, guys.
Right.
But still.
Right. Yeah. I like a dumb movie. Like I like a movie that where you can just turn your brain off and just kind of watch and just let it happen. Just let it wash over you and have a good time. As long as I find it thrilling and enjoyable, it's like as long as it's not too dumb where I notice it's fine with me. Unlike like last night, like I mentioned, me and Zach watched The Batman. And that's a movie you really have to pay attention to. You really have to be invested because it is a full real detective mystery movie, right? And so it kind of requires you to pay attention. You can't allow it to wash over you. It's a thinking man's movie.
I can't wait. I've just I got a respectable friend who's been writing reviews for a very long time, and a huge Batman film. And he's like, this is the movie my childhood like self was just like screaming for and didn't even know I needed.
Right.
So I'm very excited to check it out for sure.
Right. So and I'll just let you know that once again, Zach really enjoyed this movie, but now I'm starting to learn that Zach is almost indiscriminate in the types of movies that he liked, because we saw Moonfall the other day and he was like, yeah, I really like Moonfall. It's like, really? I only went to Moonfall because the premises sound really intriguing. And I thought, well, maybe Roland Emmerich had made a good disaster movie. And no, he didn't make a good disaster movie this time either. Right. So but he really enjoyed that movie. And so there are a lot of movies that I think are dumb, but that he really enjoyed. But this movie was an easy one for me. He really enjoyed the movie. He really liked the scene at the end where with the monkeys, where see no evil, say no evil, do no evil, and all that kind of stuff. So he thoroughly enjoyed it. So what about you guys?
I think this is going to be one of those movies that I didn't know I needed to see. I'm not mad about it. Like, this is one of those things where I thought at the end I was going to be bitter that I watched it. But honestly, I don't think I've had enough Patrick Swayze content in my life. So I'm grateful to have just another little nugget of his journey.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm on board. I'm just slightly tilt towards, I'm glad I watched it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I had fun during it. During a good portion of it, like a good like hour and 15 minutes of it. There was 45 minutes where I was just like, oh my God. So it's a movie that overall I'm glad I watched it, but I don't know if I could endorse the movie. Like I don't think I could put like my stamp of approval on it. But I liked watching it for the most part.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good enough. Good enough for me, right? I call it I'm going to call that a win.
Yeah, for sure. It's two thumbs slightly tilted upwards.
Right.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. It would have been fun if that was how their reviews worked. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
So like a phallic thumb, a flossed thumb. Anyways. Finally, Roadhouse is as of this recording available for rent or purchase from your favorite streaming services. Next week we will return with Batman Returns, homage to the Batman currently in theaters. And don't forget, you can contact us with any questions, comments, or suggestions at fanmail@backlookcinema.com. So you guys have any more additional plugs that you want to put out?
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, definitely check us out. You can find Rotten Treasure singular on any of your available platforms for podcast, except for SoundCloud. We didn't do that. But yeah, you can also find us on my new favorite thing. Check out Good Pods. Good Pods is pretty cool. We've been just recently got on that. So that's another option you got there for us. Also, Jim, you want to give a little love to your improv group?
I was just going to say that. Yeah, you can follow us. You can follow Daddy Issues at Daddy Issues Improv on Instagram. And then I believe it's Daddy Issues Improv Comedy on Facebook.
Yeah, that's my bad. I set those up and I didn't before I left the group, I was like, what if I made it as confusing as possible for everyone to find them?
Yeah.
Right. And so you're also available on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And what else did you say?
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also we are on TikTok. I'm going to figure out how to TikTok. When you're over 30, just give us a like just for being on TikTok. Okay, we're trying. We're doing our best.
Right.
We're
I
here.
noticed that the older people on TikTok tend to do like informational pieces like did you know about this, that, or the other. I'm deep into the woke and or like Black history type TikTok or the outrageous crimes that are happening to minorities TikTok. That's where I'm at. But also but the younger people, they're the ones out doing dances and skits, and it's mostly skits that I see.
Oh yeah, so, no, it's people just recording over the same audio clip 1,000 times or counting to 20 and pretending that it's rapping over something. I hated that trend.
I never saw that, so I'm glad I missed it.
You saved yourself.
But I have seen a lot of aspiring rappers. I've seen and those are these guys are really good. It's like, oh, okay, I can see why they're trying to be famous because they deserve to be famous. And I haven't seen a lot of dances. I know that people are doing a lot of dances, but I haven't seen them. Mostly I see the skits. So it's really the ones that I usually see it's like the one person and they're playing multiple characters. So there's this one TikToker, it's a woman, but she plays different body parts. So it's like she's playing herself, then she plays her brain, she plays her vagina, she plays
you got to do that, yeah.
And then there's this one, she plays like her family. So she plays herself, her middle sister, her youngest brother, and her mother. And she has like 30 different characters with different accents and occupations.
Oh, you're talking about Call Me Chris.
Yes, I think that's the one.
Yeah, so she's getting all Nutty Professor on it. Good for her.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Right. Yeah. And then there's this one that I really like, and it's actually multiple people. So it's this guy that's constantly betting his younger sister that she can't do something, and she uses science to do the thing that she can't do. Like he'll bet, like the last one I saw was like, all right, I'll bet you $50. Like he had this bottle and he had put like something in the bottle, like a piece of straw on the top of the bottle. And he's like, I bet you can't move this straw without, you saw that without pushing it or touching it or anything. So she took some alcohol and she poured it into the bottle, and then she dropped something in it, and it like she lit a torch, and she dropped a match. She dropped the match to the bottle, and the straw exploded out of the bottle, and she just took his money. Right?
Yeah, money please.
I have seen these. Yeah,
it's wild.
I love that particular one. So so there we go, going on the tangent again.
Can't help it.
That's what we do.
Yep. I'd like to thank you guys for showing up. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
It was so fun having you here. I laughed so much. I think I'm gonna my head hurts from laughing so hard. Good. So I appreciate you being here. I love it so much. And I hope that we could do this again. I hope I could be a guest. Actually, we are. I'm showing up for your podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, don't forget now.
We're doing The Incredibles too.
You got homework to do too. You got to watch Incredibles too. Right. Which, oh no, I'm so sorry. I got to make you watch Incredibles too.
and you guys are also showing up on Watching It podcast?
Yep. Oh yeah. We're actually also going to be having, believe it or not, Donnell is actually going to be coming on for the other Incredibles. So y'all can get together and talk about your incredible thoughts as well. Awesome.
That is awesome. That's so great. That's going to be a fun time.
Thank you.
So I look forward to seeing you guys again over Zoom, of course. That's going to be great. So to my audience, thank you for listening in. I hope that if this episode was too long, I'm sorry. We were having fun. You understand what it means to have fun? You know.
If Chris Gethard could put on a 5-hour episode, you can do whatever you want.
Right. So one last time, if you like this show, then please help us grow. To do this, you can subscribe to the show. You can rate us. You can write a review on Spotify, Podchaser.com, or Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app. And if you enjoyed our guests, then please listen to them on Rotten Treasure podcast. I did the thing. You got it. You can listen to them on Rotten Treasure podcast. Believe me, it matters. Be safe. Share a movie from yesteryear with your family. Hug your loved ones and be outstanding.